If you don't believe in evolution, study the LDS Church's history.
Yeah.
You'll see really, really quickly that evolution is true. We were talking pre-podcast about all of the changes in LDS Church doctrine and them disavowing different things that church leaders have said throughout the years. And yeah, that was just something that popped out of my mouth while we were just standing around drinking beers and eating pizza.
And I thought it'd be good to start off the podcast with it.
It seemed like it was more eloquent when I said it the first time. I feel like I left something out or something or was missing.
No, that was fine.
Maybe it's just context.
It was beautiful.
Yeah. Well, thank you. So, welcome to the Godless Rebelution, everybody. I'm Dan, and we have, as always, Matt and Ryan.
Hello.
And tonight we have a very special guest, Mr. Josh Fullmer.
How's it going?
Comfortable in front of the mic, we can tell.
And Josh brought with him his lovely wife, Stacy. Is that right? Very nice to meet you guys. So, Josh contacted me earlier today and asked to come on the podcast because why?
So I have been trying to get into get my voice heard. I feel like that the way a lot of the country's going and just a lot of people who need support, we need a lot more people to be vocal and active and be able to get their stories heard. I myself have a story, but I also have a unique set of talents that have accumulated through almost a decade in the field of anthropology, where I have specialized in the anthropology of religion. So being able to use what we call, and I'll delve into this a little bit more deeply, but the anthropological method, ethnographic methods, turning that in to focus on you and to realize where you are and to look at your cultural context. And that helps a lot of individuals to come to terms with some of the culture that they were raised in. Inevitably, I would say, and I say that comfortably, turning to atheism and turning away from religious traditions. So that's why I want to tell my story, and I want to tell a few things that I have come across just to demonstrate that this can be done.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sounds good.
So start us out with some definitions first. What is anthropology?
So anthropology, in simplest terms, is the study of humans. I know that sounds like a cop-out response in a lot of respects, but
No,
that's
literally what it means.
It literally is the study of humans. So there's all different kinds of fields. You have biological anthropology, which is the study of the biological mechanisms of evolution, how that relates to us, type of foods we eat, everything of that sort. We have physical anthropology, which is the study of skeletons, human osteology, both ancient and modern. We have cultural anthropology, which is specifically the study of symbolic culture and how that relates to the human experience. We also have archaeology, which is the study of material culture, both modern and ancient, and seeing how that relates. But the list, there's even pornographic anthropology, which,
Wow.
as a male with a penis, I study that quite often. But everything that you can think of, there's a field, but those are the main fields, just the archaeology, biological, physical, and cultural anthropology. I also mentioned ethnography. Ethnography is a cool field in the respect that you go out, you look at living people, and by living people, you can determine what their ancestors did because the cultural traditions exist past generations.
Yeah.
And so you can see, well, this is what this living individual has done. I can compare and contrast that to historical records, and I can make a safe assumption on what the past was doing, what their ancestors were doing. And so that's really what I focus on is ethnography, is looking at living populations and seeing how that relates to the past.
Nice. Yeah, I was going to ask you what ethnography, was that what you said?
Ethnography.
Ethnography.
Mhm.
That was the other term. I hadn't heard that term before, I don't believe. So welcome.
Thank you.
So now in talking with you a little bit before the podcast, you said that you used to be LDS, but that you lived out of state. Did you ever live in Utah, or were you raised LDS outside of Utah?
I was primarily raised LDS outside of Utah. My earliest memories, I lived in Seattle, Washington. I would call it a suburb. Olympia, it's the capital, but nobody knows where Olympia is. Sure.
I know the beer.
obviously- Yeah, we know the beer that's made in Milwaukee.
Right. That's my neck of the woods.
Yeah. So I was raised in the Northwest, which is very liberal in their take of the Mormon religion. I remember, even growing up and living there as an adult, even they were talking about how a lot of the stories that don't make sense can be taken allegorically, which is really outside the Brighamite Mormons, which you see in Utah, where everything is literal. It's a literal word of God. That wasn't the sense, and that's probably why I stayed in so long, because I had the freedom to kind of explore some of the doubts I had, which led me to be agnostic and very openly agnostic about not just the Mormon religion, but about God.
Let me jump in real
yeah,
quick right there, because that's my very first question for you.
Yeah.
What does agnostic mean, and how do you be openly agnostic?
So agnosticism, and now that I am a firebrand atheist, I really go with what Richard Dawkins says. And agnosticism, simply put, is intellectual laziness. It's the inability to really delve into what makes you uncomfortable. So you're looking at your religion, you're looking at whether or not God exists, or whether or not this religion is true. You're certainly going to be met with, and I believe you guys have used this term, cognitive dissonance, on the podcast before, where you're felt with that cognitive dissonance. So for the most part, really uncomfortable feeling, pit in your stomach. You have a lot of overheating. We know what cognitive dissonance feels like.
Put those doubts in a box and crush it.
Exactly.
So is this a case of being an atheist and not being willing to accept that, or you don't like the negative things that go along with
get
the
right
word?
up on your mind?
Yeah, I really think that for the most part, it was just an unwillingness to accept where I was, an unwillingness to really delve too deeply into the deep doctrine of the church and to delve into the history, because if I did, there was something that I was going to find that was going to prove me wrong. And I wasn't ready to admit that to myself, that I had been duped. I had been raised falsely to believe in something that's so harmful as I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a lot of just not being comfortable with who I was, and a lot of how I was raised. I mean, my earliest memories were being in the church. If you read this, you're reading anti-Mormon literature. You could become a son of perdition, and those are the only people that get to go to hell.
Sure.
You know, so it really just locked me up. When I say agnosticism, it was not because I think I was intellectually lazy. I was just petrified.
It was a fear.
Yeah. It was a fear
To
of
admit.
repercussion. And then openly agnostic, when I mean that, I was comfortable in Washington State just saying, I don't know whether or not this is true. I don't know if the church is true, if God is even real. But I like what is going on. I like how I feel because I don't know anything different. I mean, that's the precursor right there. I don't know anything different.
Yeah, and I think too many religious people get hung up on that. Like,
That's
I'm
they get
comfortable
trapped.
where I am. Why would I want to change
Yeah.
that? If I'm comfortable enough and happy enough where I am, why would I want to explore anything outside of that?
And them just being religious is a big part of them. It's like, that's who I am. This is me.
Yeah.
I'm this person that goes to church and do this and do that. It's my community. I can't
Yeah, it's
lose
the
that.
cultural traditions
Yeah.
and steeping in that environment that they don't they seem to have a view of, well, I'm happy where I am now. Why would I want to change that? Not realizing for a second that it is possible that you could be happier.
Yeah.
I think most of them fear that, and part of it's their upbringing and church teaching, that if you leave the church, you're not going to be happy.
Exactly.
And so they fear that, like, well, if I find out the church is true, I'm not going to be happy anymore.
Yeah. I mean, it's not just the Mormon religion that does it too, though. It's all religions.
Sure.
But
Yeah. Yeah, it's just sad. I think people stifle themselves because, and it's all fear-based. I think one of the primary and motivating factors behind all religion is just fear. They fear the unknown.
Yeah.
They fear finding out the truth. They fear their lives changing.
They fear God. They fear hell. They fear
It's like that bit in Wayne's World when Garth just says, "We fear change."
I mean, I know a guy that I tell him all the time, like, you're not Mormon. You're Jack Mormon. You're not actually really Mormon. You don't go to church. you drink, you do everything that the Bible or your religion tells you not to do. Like you have a pot of coffee every morning. Like, well, I am too Mormon. My parents are Mormon. I'm like, well, then you're culturally Mormon.
Well, and I think that's akin to wearing lucky underwear.
Yeah.
You might not believe in it. You might not buy into that bullshit. But hey, I won a basketball game wearing these fucking drawers.
Right.
So I'm gonna wear them every single fucking time I play basketball. That's essentially what Jack Mormons are doing.
Right.
They have this ace up their sleeve, and if anything ever goes wrong, well, hey, you know what? I never bashed the church. I never walked away completely from Mormonism. I may have sinned. I may have been out drinking. I may have, gone to was a gay club here, Metro, and hooked up in the bathroom stall. And but no. It's okay because I stayed Mormon. I never became a
never denounced it.
Yeah.
Right.
I still have tangential ties to the church, so I'm okay.
Yeah.
I see the.
Well, that's not you saying that personally.
That's not me.
That's the hypothetical person we've created. Yeah.
I renounce thee. I renounce thee. I renounce thee. Yeah.
So I actually have a friend right now who is he's atheist, but he's having the problem with it because he just had a kid, and his brothers went through it where his parents were trying to.
You
make
have a friend that had a kid?
Yeah, I got a few of them. Well, this guy just had a kid like 2 weeks ago.
The guy had a kid?
Yeah. Well, he's a guy friend. His wife had the kid.
Oh, okay.
That's what we were looking for.
It took a minute. Okay.
I know. I was playing with that one. But he's adopted, and his parents are Mormon. And his other brothers have had their parents push having their child baptized in Mormon religion. He's like, I know it's coming. He said, I don't know what to say. He's like, I don't want to offend them because I love my parents. But at the same time, I want my child to have nothing to do with the Mormon religion. He's worried that's going to tear him away.
He's got to tell him
from his. Oh, they know he's not religious.
Well, then it's not up to them.
But he's worried it's going to tear them away from him because he was.
But families are forever, and religion is a uniting force.
Right,
Bullshit.
That's a great point too. But also, that's on the parents.
Yeah.
So
Dan, I would like to qualify. Families are forever unless you're a Mormon and you have a family member who becomes an apostate.
Yeah.
And then that apostate is breaking the contract because you have an eternal family.
Sure. Right.
And,
right.
It's essentially when you look at it,
yeah.
it's an eternal contract. It's a contract that you're making. You make all those promises in the temple. Yada yada yada. It's all fucking bullshit.
You're booted out of the celestial kingdom for breach of contract.
But you're breaking your family unit. You're breaking it up apart because you're no longer allowed to be as an intact familial unit in the afterlife.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're the contract breaker.
Right.
And that's why so many people are locked up with fear to even leave the church because they know, it's not a question. They know that's going to destroy their fucking family.
But it's not. And when it's the church that's destroying it.
Yeah. Exactly.
And
I mean, you could have situations like me where my parents, it took them a while, but they came around to embrace it. We even have some philosophical conversations, but there are topics that, we're not apparently going to discuss homosexuality or anything of that sort. But that I knew, regardless of what the situation now says, at the time coming out as an atheist to my family was the hardest thing I've ever done. And I've been through a divorce, but this was much harder than that. To come to my parents and say, you have been great parents to me. You have raised me to be the man that I am. But I don't believe in any of the fucking bullshit that you've been feeding me since I was a kid. And I knew there was no doubt in my mind that they were going to walk away and I was going to be cast out of their life. But, I underestimated their capacity to embrace me and to love me who I am. But that fear was still there.
Oh, I'm sure.
And I imagine until situations demonstrate otherwise, almost everybody in the church is going to feel that one time or another. If I'm going to come out, what the fuck is it going to do to my family?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So how long have you been out then?
Officially 2 years.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And so when you came out, did you have a little family sit down meeting with your parents, or how did you go about it? I'm always interested in the coming out story.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. I knew, again, it was unfounded. I would even consider it wrong on my stance to underestimate my parents in that way. But I had never seen anything else to demonstrate that they were going the other way, that they would actually support me, because I've had cousins who have made mistakes. They never left the church, but they made mistakes and they've been completely ostracized from the family. So I just mentioned it in passing one day. I said, I'm not going to church anymore. And this was before I got my divorce. I'm not going to church anymore. I don't believe in it. And there were, a couple, okay, we need to sit down and reconvert Josh dinners. Certainly at
Family meeting, emergency time.
Family meeting at Chuckarama. We're going to be at Chuckarama and discuss the church.
Up Chuckarama.
But it was hard for them. And I think it was hard for them because this is something that means so much to them. But it wasn't about the religion. It was about the pain that I was going through at the time because I was going through a divorce. But they didn't know how to articulate that they still supported me because for them, they had the red flags. Well, fuck, Josh is sinning. He's doing these bad things. Mm-hmm. And that's why he's leaving the church. Mm-hmm. It's because he's so disenfranchised with it. And it's your fault. It was initially my fault. But see, that was the reaction that was ingrained into them via the culture. So they didn't go that route. And that's why I'm saying that it was ingrained in them because they didn't go that route. Yeah, there was a lot of resilience at first, but they came to me and they just said, and this was one thing that really stuck to me. My dad comes to me and says, Josh, you have an amazing capacity to teach and to bring people together. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I know what your beliefs are. And this was a year after, I came out to them in a little bit of small bickering here and there. But he says, I just hope that you're going to do this for good. And he's like, I know what you believe and just understand I respect you. And I hope that you respect my beliefs. And, we'll discuss philosophy anytime you want. We can discuss it, but just know that I'm never going to demonize you. I'm never going to attack you for being an atheist. And he just said, essentially, Spider-Man quote. I don't know where the fuck he came up with that. But, with great power comes great responsibility. So, just bring people together, bridge those gaps. And that was the advice that he gave me.
And will you use your newfound power for good or for awesome?
I will use it for awesome. Definitely for awesome. So it's been good. And I mean, my grandfather even passed away a couple months ago. And I never knew him as an adult. They lived in California. So I had some regrets not getting to know him as an adult. So I was pretty torn up about it. And my dad called me and said, and this was big. I mean, this was fucking huge for a Mormon to say this, or anybody who's religious for that matter. But he comes up to me and he says, I know that you're having a hard time with your grandfather passing, and we don't necessarily know what's going to happen to him. I believe that he's going to the celestial kingdom, but for you just need to understand that he's part of the universe for whatever that means to you, and that he is no longer suffering. And that's the beautiful aspect of it. And that's my fucking dad, who's a Brighamite Mormon, comes to me and says that. So that was a milestone. And after that, I fully understood, not just knew, but I understood how much he supported me and respected me for whatever I'm doing, as long as I'm not going out there, blowing a horn 7 times and saying "fuck Mormons."
I wish that guy at Temple Square.
Like
Have you run into that fucking crazy guy?
Yeah.
Oh man, he followed us around when we did the last mass resignation. He sees this group of people all holding protest signs and everything, and he's on the corner blowing his fucking horn. And
I must have missed him.
He sees us coming, and he's all excited initially, like, "Hey, some more people protesting the LDS Church!" And he runs up to us and he starts reading the signs. And he's like, "Oh no, God will not be mocked."
But no, I was there, and he was so fucking excited. He was like an alcoholic in an alcohol store. I mean, it was great. But he comes over and he's deer caught in the fucking headlights. We're like, "You're barking up the wrong tree." Yeah, we know Mormons are a cult. Move on.
I would say that's probably the prime example of how parents should react. I've been accused of taking a hard line on this show, but I still think it's entirely up to the parents to react in the way that yours did. These are your fucking kids. Yeah. They're going to come to you and say something. You're going to shit on them? Like, fuck you. No, you be the grown up. You act like a fucking grown up. This is your child. Yep. Be a grown up. you know?
Yeah, kudos to your dad.
Absolutely.
That's
absolutely. 100%.
really good.
But most of the time they don't. They act like fucking kids and they expect their kids to be the grown-ups.
Yeah.
And that's bullshit.
And I mean,
that's what people are afraid of.
Think of the mid 90s to the mid early 2000s when kids were getting caught, maybe with something as simple as, hey, I have, a gram of marijuana.
Or a joint or something.
A joint, and they're getting sent off to fucking Camp Anasazi.
Hello. Yeah.
Did you?
I went to DT for 2 weeks for that.
Fuck that shit.
Because my mom called the cops. She found a bong in my room.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. It was a tobacco bong, right?
It was an herbal bong.
Yeah. But
it's
still.
for really big incense, Mom.
Yeah. But still, that dude, like fucking grow up.
Yeah.
Right? Like you're the parent. I don't know.
You got sent off to...
I went to DT. Not to Anasazi, no. But I went to DT. I got locked up for 2 weeks for having a bong in my room. God. My mom found and called the cops on me.
How old were you?
13.
It was last week.
Yeah. No, well, she and I haven't had a great relationship ever. I mean, we still don't. But, it's just one of those things. Like, just fucking grow up. I have a 13-year-old now. So, what if he did something that I don't do or don't agree with? What if he was gay? I'm not gay. What if he was gay? Would I shun him? No. Of course not.
Because you're not a religious
It's not me. I don't get to decide for him.
Yeah.
I get to be the 32-year-old that says, okay, you're different from me. Weird. Whoa.
Yeah.
All right, fine, whatever. So anyway, but that's, I guess that's not a hard line. I don't know.
No,
No, I get accused of that on this show.
No, we accuse you of just being wrong.
Well, if you could make the case, then it would be a situation we'd have.
Whoa!
Actually,
Don Cheeto's lost forever.
Don Cheeto is lost. The Don Cheeto episode.
I'm still
tragedy.
torn up about that.
We're gonna keep mentioning Don Cheeto until someone
and no
asks.
one's gonna know what's going on.
Until someone asks, "What is Don Cheeto?"
Hey, what is Don Cheeto?
I still don't know the guy's real name. I'm still gonna call him Don Cheeto.
It's Don Cheadle.
Cheadle.
Yeah.
I called him Don
and he's
Cheeto.
a fantastic actor.
He is.
Let's get into some anthropology.
All right.
This is a rare situation.
I feel like I'm on drunk history right now.
That's about right.
We like the beers.
So you mentioned your specific interest is in anthropology pertaining to religion, right?
Yes,
Book of Mormon,
yes.
Bible. Let's talk about the flora for like 600 BC to let's say 600 AD Mesoamerica, and what we know is true versus what the Book of Mormon claims.
So the flora.
I mean, go ahead and take a drink. Because the Book of Mormon talks a lot about wheat and barley. And some of the fauna, they talk about elephants and horses and things like that, which is almost a direct plagiarism from some of the Bible stuff about wheat and barley in the Middle East, which we know happened, right? That's for sure. But in Central America, not necessarily the case, right? So,
Well, and that's correct. And I mean, you'll never actually hear the church admit, as public policy, they will never admit that it took place in Mesoamerica.
sure.
So, I mean, you have multiple different scopes depending on, and yes, the Mormon church does have different denomination, you fuckers. It's not just the Mormon church. You have Brighamites, you have all different kinds of denominations within the same fucking name. I'm just putting it out there.
Yeah, FLDS.
The FLDS. Yeah. But even with
Even
the
FLDS
mainstream,
has
mainstream LDS church,
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
you have different interpretations of the same doctrine, which that is anthropological within itself, is that you can't have a widely distributed set of beliefs and not have different interpretations, thus not having different denominations. Mm-hmm. But so it really depends on who you ask. Did it take place in Mesoamerica? Did it take place in South America? Did it take place in Jackson County, Missouri? Did it take place in Canada? Who the fuck knows? And it's always a skirting of the question.
Yeah.
But, the primary...
But yet the Mormon funds tours to places like Chichen Itza.
Yes.
And stuff, which is clearly Mayan.
And they
Guatemala and Central America.
They do that specifically because there are some correlations. So I mean, you have in Chichen Itza, you have different symbols that are on the wall, like you have the sun, the moon, the star. Obviously, that means they were talking about, the fucking celestial, telestial, and terrestrial kingdoms. Obviously, that's what that means. Okay. I mean, God forbid that you fucking look up in the sky and there's a big yellow thing, and everybody who fucking lives and has eyes that work, they can fucking see that there's stars and moon and sun, and they're going to record that sometime in the history. No, Mormons, you're fucking right. It's the 3 degrees of glory.
And real quick, I wanted to mention how weird it is to me that the LDS Church has the 3 different heavens, but they name them weirdly, right? Like you have the telestial, which is the lowest bit that is going to be here on Earth, and then above that you have the terrestrial, which to me the 2 should be switched, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Terrestrial should be like the base, and then telestial, but no, and that always fucks with me because
and everybody else.
Yeah, but telestial here on Earth is the lowest, then terrestrial, and then the celestial above that.
Yeah, but let's not even get into the fact that this is a mid-19th century guy writing in 17th century English.
Yeah.
Oh, exactly.
British English.
Translating.
Yeah.
That fucking kills me, yeah.
No, absolutely. But
I mean, plagiarizing from the Bible all the way.
Oh, yeah.
So when he talks about wheat and barley in Central America, let's assume that's the case, because it's the unofficial position of the LDS Church that that's where it took place. But wheat and barley versus like what we know is squash and beans and that kind of thing, right?
Absolutely. And I will preface this, by explaining some of these things. What I hope to do is also to demonstrate how you can come about some of this information. Just kind of demonstrating what the anthropological and ethnographic methods are. If we're saying specifically about wheat and barley, we have to go back to 600 BC and kind of look around the world to the places where those 2 grains were being used widely and what they were being used for. Mm-hmm. And you can kind of cross that. Exactly. So we're all holding up our beers right now.
Oh no, that means
I know we're.
Oh no, that means I'm out.
Well, you illustrated my point. It's still
the silent beer me, bro.
Yeah. But we look at what wheat and barley was used for. It was primarily used for alcoholic beverages. When we're looking at breads, I mean, we didn't really have in a lot of areas. We didn't have a lot of yeast. We didn't have a lot of leavening. I mean, that's why leavened bread is prohibited by the kashrut in Judaism, is specifically because they hadn't really encountered it. And so when they came across it, it was foreign to their culture. And so thus they didn't understand it. So it was banned.
Being made by heathens.
Exactly.
And so forth.
Being made of somebody outside of our culture.
Sure.
But you look specifically in Mesoamerica, you look specifically in Central America, all the way up to the Arizonas, all that. And yeah, you're absolutely right. In the Southwest, especially in this area in Utah, we're using a lot of squash. We do have breads that are made out of honey and maize. Different things like that.
Yeah, sure, corn. Yeah.
So they did have breads.
I thought you said mice there for a minute. I was like, that's an interesting ingredient.
I'm sure there are some indigenous populations that use mice.
With a little honey, it's not too bad.
Yeah.
Hey, I saw one where the tribes were using mosquitoes to make burgers.
Yeah, exactly. So there you go. Like everybody tries something.
Fucking awful.
Yeah, if you got enough mosquitoes around to swing a net in the air and make a patty out of them, that's a nasty place to live in.
You know what? I would fucking eat those bastards back once in a while. Yeah, I would do that.
I would just make the patty and leave it out. See? Fuck with me, this is going to happen to you.
Yeah.
Dan, what I do is I catch one that I deem to be their savior and I crucify him. I am your God now.
That's a great idea.
Just pin their wings and leave them alive.
Like, there's a black widow carcass at the end of my stairs at the other end of the house here. And it's there not at all because I don't want to fucking pick it up. Wink, wink. But because I leave it there as a testament as to what will happen to the other black widows who manage to get into my house.
Yeah, to go against the will of their God.
It sounds like superstition to me, Dan. For sure.
You might as well just write it down.
I think you're just afraid to touch it.
That's not at all it.
That's awesome. Yeah, but to go back to the wheat and barley. So, I mean, we do have a lot of records of indigenous populations, especially on the coasts, who were making breads that are very similar to the breads that we're eating today. The Hopi and the Pueblo, they're very famous for their honey maize breads that they make.
Four Corners area.
So you think about it, with a limited understanding, it's not a far-fetched to be like, okay, yeah, they were using flour. Especially somebody who's, obviously a male who's not supposed to do female jobs like, make fucking bread. He's supposed to go out and con people for money and rape 14-year-old children. But, he's not going to...
How did we get to Muhammad?
No, that was 9 years old. Actually.
That was 9 years old. Come on. Giving him too much credit there. But... You see bread, as somebody who's not really educated in food sources, production, whatever the sort, you see somebody eating bread, even if it's, hey, we had wheat and flour integrated or introduced within the past couple 100 years, you're not sitting down, reading the ethnographic records and saying, well, actually, that was introduced in 1658. So they have been using it for 200 years, but we introduced it to him. So when I'm writing about 600 BC, obviously I should readjust that. No, he's too fucking stupid to do that. But we have the records now because we can go back and we can look through archaeological records and we can go back and date through carbon dating, when certain things were introduced. And the first time we really see wheat showing up, especially in the Southwest, especially in Mesoamerica, is around the late 16th century, early 17th century.
Okay, so when 1590 or so, we see. Okay, so that's way past what we're talking about for wheat and barley to be showing up for the Nephites or the Lamanites.
Absolutely.
Well, and as a frame of reference, when does the LDS Church speak about, or the doctrine speak about the Nephites and being here in Jackson, Missouri?
Lehi, it was 600 BC when he fled. And so, maybe 40 years after that.
So we're talking about 1,000-year difference, an entire millennia.
Yeah.
So 560 BC to, 1,000 years.
Mm-hmm. And what they're
1,000-year margin of error.
And I've actually heard apologists, one of my favorite
Dan Peterson
satirical sites.
That guy is, man.
I knew that wouldn't get a laugh, even though it was because you fucking hate him so bad.
I do. That guy's just such a fucking douchebag.
Yeah, he's so bad.
For sure.
He's so bad.
But they'll claim, well, it's such a big fucking place,
Sure.
Like, somebody over there could be weed.
Sure.
Well, guess what, fuckers?
I don't know what my neighbors are cooking, so obviously they could have invented something weird.
It's not an indigenous, and here's the dirty little secret. It's not an indigenous plant to anywhere. It's genetically modified from earlier strains, and it was genetically modified in Mesopotamia, so that's when it first began to show up, is in Egypt, everything of that sort. It didn't make it over to Europe until late 12th century. Really is when they started integrating wheat. They already had barley at that point. And then, following cultural diffusion.
So you're saying they invented the GMOs?
Monsanto.
Oh, okay. No.
Before we delve into GMO, which
no, that was more of a joke because
I know because we're all fine with that.
No, I remember Al Gore claiming that he invented GMOs along with the internet and global warming.
Really?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Who knows with that guy?
He's God.
But I was gonna say, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like there's at least it seems like there's more evidence to suggest that sweet potatoes have been transported between West Coast, Central or South America, Chile and stuff, and the Pacific Islands than there was between Middle East and Mesoamerica with wheat and those kinds of things.
Oh, certainly. And you have, obviously different strains. And I am by no means an expert of this, but one of my former mentors, Dr. Patrick Chapman, did a lot of work on Micronesia, Polynesia, and the trade of sweet potatoes and yams.
Yep.
And I know there's a difference between sweet potatoes and yams,
I know.
but I don't fucking care. They taste exactly the same. Yeah. One comes from Africa, one comes from Central
They look
America.
almost identical.
Yeah, I thought I might have said the wrong one too when I said that. I wasn't sure either.
They're the same thing.
It doesn't fucking matter. It really, we're just arguing semantics at that point. But they were traded back and forth between the islands and the mainlands. And in, Easter Island, which was 998.
Yeah.
AD or something, give or take 50 years. They have remains of sweet potatoes or yams, whatever the fuck you want to call them, on that island. And so we know that the trade was going from mainland back there, but that was a widely used food source. So if we're talking, and I should preface this by saying that it was the most widely used starch that they had. Right. So if we're talking about bread being made, if it's Mesoamerica, we're not going to be mentioning corn or maize. We're not going to be mentioning that. We're not going to be mentioning wheat. We're not going to be mentioning barley. We're going to be mentioning yams, sweet potatoes. Mm-hmm. Where the fuck is that squash, mentioned? Yeah, where is that mentioned in the Book of Mormon? It's not.
Nowhere.
When that should be the lifeblood.
Right. They also forgot tapirs and mentioned elephants instead.
Oh, but that's the fucking horses.
And horses were, yeah. Well, maybe it was deer, but they said horses.
Yeah.
And your translator fucking sucks.
These fuckers
are... they wrote dog-sized animals into battle.
And these fuckers are coming from Europe. Yeah. They know what deer are, They know what horses are.
Yeah, of course they do. Yeah. Of course they do. Tapir might have been confusing, of course, but that, that's a little better than the size of an average terrier. Yeah. They're not writing those things.
Like a dick. I don't know. I saw that on a hunting show. There's an animal.
You just wanted to say dick.
No, there's a deer called a dick.
Yeah, it's the deek, but they're actually...
Yeah, it looks like dick.
A tapir's larger than a deek.
Can we say cock on this show?
Yeah, sure. It wasn't a cock, but I think it was it looked like... I thought the guy said dick on the show. Yeah, I'm like, you're shooting a dick? I'm like, what the...
Yeah.
But honestly...
I might be wrong, but I think that's Southeast Asian.
Yeah.
But they're a really small deer species.
Oh yeah, they're like the size of a fucking cat.
They actually have incisors that grow out.
Yeah, they're little things. Like I saw the guy shoot it, and they went up pick it up. I'm like, it's a cat.
It's like, definitely not a cat cock.
No,
cock. A penis.
I was going to use that one next. I was going to say the Mormons rode in the battle on penises.
Yeah, but
it's like that's hard to say. Grab your shield. I'm mounting my schlong.
I feel like a Monty Python sketch right now.
Yeah,
running it on the schlong.
We do run some tangents.
But we've all been to the zoo. Yes. We've all seen tapirs. Who the fuck is looking at that and being like, well, that could be a horse.
Could be a deer, yeah, or even a deer,
or a deer, or
right.
So
even if your vision was really fucked up, you couldn't mistake that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Nor would you be riding one into battle.
No.
It would be funny, though.
That's the big mistake, I think, there.
With your steel sword before steel was ever invented.
Exactly.
Well, at least in the Americas.
Yeah.
Well, no, nowhere on the planet. 600 BC.
Well, not in 600, no.
No.
Well, but some of those, I was going to say some of the battles that talk about take place after that, but when they talk about the Jaredites and stuff, that's before 600 BC.
That's 2000. That's between 2000 and 1500 BC.
Yeah, and you're talking about like the battle between Shiz and Coriantumr.
Mm-hmm.
He smote off his head with a sword.
Yeah.
So you're talking about steel. 4,000 years ago?
Yeah. 4,000 years before
the Bronze Age.
Yeah, exactly. And when we look at it, there was weapons around that time that we're finding archaeologically, but most of them, the lucky few will have blades that are made of obsidian. But one of the things that archaeologists and anthropologists look at is what's called behavioral ecology. And so if you study biology at all, you recognize, okay, this is just a theory that you place around creatures, animals, based upon what their environment is. And so the choices that they're going to make to gather food, to survive within that environment, is almost like the simplest form of cultural tradition. I mean, this is medulla oblongata shit. I mean, this is like your basal survival. And so if you accept evolution as fact, which you should, it applies to humans as well. I mean, I meet within my field of anthropology. There's still some individuals who disagree with that, but they're also stupid.
But just like
they're also fucking wrong.
People who don't accept climate change.
Exactly.
But it's a small group.
Yeah,
though.
but behavioral ecology, I mean, certainly applies to humans as well. So, I mean, you're looking at a huge obsidian blade, which let me tell you, that takes fucking forever. So much work
to chisel it
to
out
make it,
to nap that, yeah.
and
to find a chunk of obsidian,
and to find a chunk of obsidian where there's only a few places in the world that you can go find obsidian that large.
Yeah.
But I've heard they're extremely sharp knives.
They are. But here's the thing: when something takes that long as a creation, behavioral ecology tells you
does it take at least 6 days to create?
Probably even longer than that. maybe one day to rest, but behavioral ecology tells you that it doesn't make sense. So that's part of the cultural niche. If you're making something, and obsidian is extremely brittle. I mean, it'd be basically stabbing somebody with a glass knife.
Yep.
That's essentially what the chemical composition is. So am I gonna build an obsidian blade just to fucking break it on the first person I come across?
Yeah, spending a month.
Fuck no.
Napping it.
That's not going to happen. Not to mention that there is zero record of mass genocide or massive wars in the archaeological record. The few pieces that we've had and seen that are very big, elaborate, could be identified almost as a sword, even though swords didn't exist on this continent until they were brought over by the Spanish. But the few things that we have seen are largely ceremonial. We have never seen any indication that they have been used in battle, that they have been used to take another life, that they have even been used in hunting.
More of a royal stature type thing.
It really is. It really is. It's like the Mercedes-Benz of bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, look what I can do with a fucking rock. Well, congratulations.
Right. Mostly
awesome.
they would use the hand axe, I guess, right? The universal tool of the flint and obsidian. Kind of the carving and cutting.
Or, what the fuck ever they could just grab in an instant.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, when you're talking about grinding down like basalt into an axe, I mean that I've done that through experimental archaeology, and it takes like a fucking month, and that's an hour or 2 hours a day.
Yeah,
right.
I finished that, and let me tell you, humans are the same any period of time. Like you see petroglyphs that are up on like 600.
Yeah, Homo sapiens. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so. Something that I spent that long on, I'm not going to bash it over somebody's head.
Yeah.
I'm just going to be like, there's a fucking cliff there. I'm just going to push you over.
Right.
I don't like you.
Right. Or flee. I mean that would have happened a lot too, I would imagine.
Mm-hmm. This may not be a question completely on subject, or you might not know it, but I'd heard this before where they said the theory is saying that Native Americans, the reason why you don't always find arrowheads, because they didn't always use arrowheads, because it took a lot of time to make. It was easier to just put basically a point on the end of your arrow, just carve it out of the wood and launch that on an animal, because you're going to lose it anyways.
Oh, that's absolutely true. I mean, I've worked with some amazing, because the procedure to do it is called flint napping.
Yeah.
So you basically take a piece of chalcedony, chert. I know that some modern Polynesians will steal the cat's eyes off the fucking road and use that.
Oh, okay.
It's actually really cool. I mean, if you have it available, you're going to use it. That's behavioral ecology right there. You're going to take the path of least resistance. And so when you think about,
So when you said cat's eyes, you're talking about modern stuff, the reflectors on the side of the road.
Yes, the reflectors off the side of the roads. But it takes even the master flint nappers a couple hours to select a piece of obsidian. It's definitely a real science to it, because you have to make sure that the percussion that you're putting onto it is not going to fracture the glass to make it unusable. So you have to make sure, there's minimal air pockets on that, so on and so forth. And so, a couple hours to make a fucking arrowhead. And these are the masters.
Yeah.
But I imagine that if you're doing it as part of your survival, this is part of your culture. It's not necessarily something that you're studying academically. You could probably knock one out still half an hour. And then that's not to mention the fucking resources that you have to go out and search for and trade for, that it's going to cost you obscene amounts of resources to be able to get that. So again, yeah, we have arrowheads that we can map for different cultural traditions, different projectile points, and they were used, but only in times where it was abundant. So, if you're going into a hard season where you don't really have anything to trade for the materials, yeah, a fucking sharp stick works just as well as sitting around hammering at a rock for 4 hours.
Yeah. I can't remember where I heard that someplace where they're talking about saying that there wasn't always an arrowhead on the arrow, that a sharp stick worked just as well, and it took less time. You can make I don't know, I'm just off the top of my head saying you can make 20 sharp sticks, get them all cured by the fire. The time it would have taken you to find the materials and make one arrowhead. You know
what else works well, and we know they did too, was that they would get big groups of hunters and corral a group of horses or woolly mammoths or something and run them off a fucking cliff.
Oh, certainly.
To their death.
Or even a small crevasse or canyon or something.
Anything like that.
And then you can take them down with clubs or whatever it is.
Then you can just fucking stone them,
do whatever. If you had to at that point, but yeah.
And also think of it this way: when you're making projectile points or something, you're a skilled artisan. Much in the way that we have artisans today. The concept of art didn't necessarily exist, but you need to market yourself. Okay, you need to say that I'm the best at making projectile points. I'm the best at making this. So when we have those Clovis points, I'm sure you've seen in museums where they're just fucking obscenely huge. They're translucent. There's no fucking way you're going to use that to bring down a mammoth. It's going to break. It's like, hey, I'm going to throw a window shard at you and see what that does. I'm a fucking elephant, but whatever. They're making that to say, look how fucking awesome I am. Look how good I am at doing this shit. And so if you need, any of your projectile points, come to me. I'm the man to see.
That big one's like the advertisement outside the front of the store.
Exactly. No, that's exactly, and that's
which sounds like artists. They probably couldn't even throw it anyway.
Yeah. So that's the currently accepted theory.
I'm making fun of myself.
It's the same with basketry. I mean, you see these very ornate basketries, very ornate pottery.
Right. But they didn't use that to collect berries, right?
Oh, fuck no.
Yeah.
Fuck no. Those were the pieces like, hey, if you want to give me like a couple ears of corn, I'll make you a basket.
So Book of Mormon fails on flora and fauna then.
Certainly.
And
at least for the semi quotes they make on area that they're supposedly living in at the time. Is it easy anthropologically? Like, is there a difference? You could tell. Like let me ask it a different way because I'll get a full sentence out. Here we go.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
All right. So Native Americans, right? It says right in the foreword are the chief descendants of the Lamanites, right?
Well, that was until 2006. Now it says among the many ancestors.
Right, because they want to talk about the genetic shift and all that. But let's forget about that because that's bullshit. But so let's just say
again, that's the evolution of the LDS Church.
Yeah, yeah. So let's just take Native American groups and is there anything anthropologically like customs, dress,
like a link,
hunting techniques, weaponry, any of that kind of stuff that links them to the Middle East in any way?
No.
I mean, over like Asian or North Asian populations. I mean, because there's obviously clear links to Asia.
Yeah. As far as Middle East, I mean, we're going to just ignore the haplogroups, which if we research the haplogroups, we know beyond the shadow of a doubt that
say that
haplogroups is part of the mitochondrial DNA.
Okay.
Different regions will spawn different haplogroups that you can trace. I encourage
there's
the
a
listeners.
Really cool documentary about it. I think where they do the genealogy of people and they basically trace them back. And like they were doing it in like New York and major cities and going.
Yeah, certainly.
Going, you actually have mitochondrial DNA that came from this region, so your family would have came from here and immigrated through this part of the country. And
absolutely, because the mitochondrial DNA is translated matrilineal, so it's only through the mother.
Right.
But that would take a couple hours to explain. So I just encourage the listeners to go on and research haplogroups, HAPLO GROUPS. Hook it on Pahonics, work it for me. God, that was a bad idea to spell. That was really bad. But so, yeah,
autocorrect will fix it.
Yeah, autocorrect will fix that. But we'll ignore that. We'll ignore the genetic evidence that obviously proves that they didn't come from the Middle East, and we'll look specifically at cultural traditions. Now, the one thing that needs to be noted is that Native American traditions are as diverse as European traditions.
Sure.
Or any tradition throughout the world. So, even in this area where we have the Navajo, the Shoshone, and the Paiute, that'd be like trying to compare ancient French, ancient German, and ancient Greek. So it's very, very diverse.
But we still know, even as diverse as Western Europe, Northern Europe, even include the Baltics, the Slavs, and the Russians.
Yeah.
Even as diverse as that group is, none of them came from Polynesia.
No, absolutely, absolutely, yeah.
So that's what I'm getting.
Yeah,
at,
so we can certainly make that. But what I'm saying is, I'm not an expert on every single tribe, so there's a lot of diversity that I'm not aware of. But I worked a lot with the Navajo, and specifically, the main tradition that sticks out in my mind that proves that they're not Middle Eastern is they speak an Athabascan language, which is primarily found through Alaska and northern Canada. They're the only southern tribe that speaks that language.
All right, so the Inuits, yeah.
So, yeah, very, very similar to the Inuits. So they came, and I happen to know through records that they settled in this area around 1500 AD. So, and they came down, they migrated down from Canada. Right. So that's indication right there that the Navajo came from the Bering Strait.
Yeah, which 1500 is way later than even the peak of the Mayan Empire, which was way later than the peak of the quote Lamanite Empire.
Yeah, exactly. But even in when we're comparing to Asian traditions, we can look at material culture, and this is what helps us out the most when we're trying to make these educated guesses. You look at the material culture, and I did some work with Washington State tribes. And I won't necessarily mention which ones. Nobody's going to know what they are anyway. But due to copyright and policy laws, I can't really do it. But you can find very similar artifacts from Japan all the way across, all the way up through Alaska, where you start getting very, very heavy Russian influence around 1400 AD, and then all the way down to California. You see that there are very distinct things that they do that can be traced. One of the most prominent things is the use of acorn and leaching it. So they will dig a 3-foot wide pit, bury acorns in it, let a aquifer, underground water, run through those acorns for about 6 months. That leaches out all the tannic acids. And now they have a sweet flour that they can use to make bread.
Interesting.
Okay. And you see that all the way across.
Okay.
And it's a continuous loop.
And that's something that you find pretty heavily throughout Syria and Jerusalem and
No, you don't find that anywhere. Nowhere.
Okay.
Nowhere.
I mean, that's something rather specific.
Yeah, I think that's what Matt was getting at. Because that didn't come over.
Because you would
have think that Lehi could fit an acorn on his boat.
Probably. I mean, if Noah, who came many years before him.
Right.
And he was further removed from the chosen dispensation, let me tell you that.
Yeah.
So Noah wasn't as good a guy as Lehi was, obviously.
Which is another one of the things that we talked about pre-podcast, that it just fucking blows my mind that even in trying to tackle the more difficult questions in the LDS faith, the LDS Church released a letter saying that no, we believe in the literal story of Noah and the Great Flood. Like that, according to our official church doctrine that we just published a fucking letter affirming this year, really fucking happened.
Yeah.
That blows my mind.
Yeah. And then
that's a special kind of fucking bullshit.
It really is. It really is. It's the Special Olympics of bullshit. No, but it's something that really ties it in. The kashrut laws have been around since BC times. Okay. We have a continuous archaeological record. If we're going to sit here and argue that pork was banned by the kashrut laws, then it would be very obvious to me that the Mesoamericans or whichever group came would be following the law of Moses prior to Christ coming to this country, to grand old America, and saying, you know what, Americans?
Well,
like, there's no fucking need to not eat pork anymore. Right. Like, you still can't eat shellfish, but pork is bad, okay? Right. Drugs are bad, okay? Like, it's just fucking... But we don't see that in the archaeological record. We see a constant consumption of pork products. All the way across the board. And so if they were coming from Israel, that's one fucking thing that we should see is adherence to the Mosaic law.
Sure. Yeah.
Which does not demonstrate anywhere in the archaeological records.
Sure.
On either continent, South America or North America. We don't see that until Jewish individuals start immigrating here in the late 17th or the late 18th century.
Right.
That's the first time we see it.
And they're going mostly through Ellis Island in New York. Right. This isn't tribal stuff.
So anymore. You would have seen that on the northeastern coast of the U.S. versus southern U.S., Central America.
Yeah. We'd actually be talking about Jewish or Muslim immigrants from 600 BC,
right?
And all the indigenous Amazonian populations and so would be still adhering to Mosaic or Islamic law,
right?
Which we see none of, whatsoever. Yeah, that's an interesting point. Yeah,
not to mention that we can actually look at human remains. Which the Mormon Church probably doesn't want me to tell you this, but I'm going to tell you anyway. But you can.
I'm sure they don't want this podcast to happen ever.
Because again, pre-podcast, we're talking about how race is a cultural concept and not a biological reality.
Right.
Case in point, I can start at the equator and I can just walk constantly north or south, and I'm never going to see a defining line between white, black. Asian, anything like that. It does not exist. And so we just have variabilities in phenotypic responses. That's all perceived race is. So, wow, I'm really drunk. So,
welcome to the podcast. But that was something else that I've always thought was kind of interesting too. And I've heard Richard Dawkins talk about it when he talks about, within archaeology and biology, you find people who are either lumpers or splitters. Like, where do you decide? No, this was a different species, or this was, where do you draw that line to say that this was a different hominid, this was a different type of, whatever being. When we all have the same common ancestors stretching all the way back through time and evolution.
Well, and again, it really depends, because anthropology is as guilty as any other field of study. I mean, you still have individuals who are very set in their ways that race does exist, but the evidence that I've come across is it doesn't. However, in the scientific language, you're still going to hear Mongoloid, Negroid, and Caucasoid. Caucasoid really comes about because it's the closeness to God is really determinant. And this is where these racial qualifiers came from, was the 19th century. We had mentioned in our conversation over Facebook today about pseudoscience and the LDS history and religion. This really is American history, the pseudoscience of it. So we have those Caucasoid, Negroid, and Mongoloid qualifiers, as well as many numerous other ones that we can see. Like I mentioned pre-podcast, orangutans were considered a race of humans in the 19th century, Homo orangutangus, which
just sounds funny.
They had more rights than
people
blacks.
accuse me of being very orangutan-like.
So proof in the pudding right there. Homo orangutangus sitting right in front of me. But so it still exists in scientific nomenclature because we're looking at human remains, and this was my original point. Where I can look at the shape of your incisors, I can look at the shape of your ocular cavities, the shape of your cranium, and I can build an educated guess that is more or less right most of the time. I mean, there are some phenotypic responses that could counter that, but I mean, Mongoloids almost universally have shovel-shaped incisors. So if I look at skeletal remains and I see those shovel-shaped incisors, I can say, well, this is Mongoloid ancestry. Well, what the fuck does that mean? It means anybody who came from Asia at one point and has Asian ancestry. I'd say probably 98% of Native American remains that we have studied and have identified have those shovel-shaped incisors. And if they were coming from Israel, they would not have those.
I was going to say the remaining 2% that aren't, quote, Mongoloid only occur after 1492.
More or less, yeah.
Right.
I don't have access to much remains,
but I'm just saying, like the only Caucasian or African genetics as those genetics go only occur after 1492.
Those frequencies go down. You do have some in the Confederate tribes of the Cherokee Nation and what's the one that movie was based off of?
Mohicans.
Last of the Mohicans.
It might anyway,
stay alive no matter what occurs.
Somewhere in the Northeast, they had individuals that, because let's face the fucking facts, Columbus wasn't the first person to get here.
Oh no,
sure. No, yeah,
sure. We had Vikings immigrating, from 10,000.
We had Asians here, which created all of our Native Americans.
Yeah. No, exactly.
I spent an hour proving that.
Yeah. So that's where the other, like, anywhere from 2 to 10% are coming from that don't have the shovel shape.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
Are coming from,
Scandinavian
immigration or
who knows where else. Polynesia, they've had interactions for.
Oh yeah,
but they're Asian too.
Yeah, the Polynesians have those shovel shape incisors.
Yeah.
There's actually a really good documentary I'd seen about Polynesians going to some island. I can't remember which one it was. It's called Tankito, I think that's what it's called. But it was actually filmed from the actual guys in like the 1950s or 1940s, whenever it happened, where they were saying, "Hey, I can prove that this group of people moved here by boat." And they're like, "No, you're fucking wrong. You're impossible." Like it goes, they followed the winds, they followed the tides, and they would just naturally take you to this set of islands in Polynesia from like South America someplace. And he built the boat off it, all the materials that would have been built back then, and he fucking floated to Polynesia. Landed on a fucking Polynesian island. It's like, see? Proved to you. This is exactly how this fucking works. You guys are all fucking wrong. Give me my fucking prize.
Neener.
You have any news this week, Ray?
I don't. I was lazy. I was busy this week.
How about those elections?
Oh, fuck that shit. Well, I mean, honestly, if you go with history, it was kind of predictable. Usually, the
historical precedent is an average of 6 that are in the opposition party to whichever president is in his.
So it's really not a surprise that it happened. Do I like that it happened? No. Yeah. Is it a surprise? No. I just hope that they get off their fucking asses and don't do some bullshit fucking rules like I spent another, $20 billion trying to repeal Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act, as you should be saying it like it's actually called.
Yeah, I figured that the Senate would fall. I didn't realize that the margins would be that big. Yeah. I'm very disappointed.
Because they needed 51 and they got 53. And I think
I thought it was 55.
Was it 55 at the end?
I thought it was 55 at the end.
I think so.
But here's the part that fucking terrifies me. Is we already have a culture that's anti-education for the most part.
Yeah.
We've seen, anybody who has a pair of eyes and a pair of ears knows that we are in the midst of a culture war. Much akin to, and I might get some flack of this, but much akin to the 1960s.
I think that's totally parallel.
That's a valid,
yeah. And a lot of it is, how do you control a population and keep them dumb and ignorant?
Yeah.
And so we are seeing it in the schools. We are seeing it with human rights, and it's scary. And what can fix it is scientific education. Just something as simple as just putting fucking Bill Nye the Science Guy. I was watching that before I came here, and I remembered growing up, like I would come home and I would watch Bill Nye the Science Guy on fucking PBS.
Same here.
And that was very exciting to me to learn to go and replicate those experiments. And I don't fucking see that anymore. No. To quote Neil deGrasse Tyson, to quote Carl Sagan, the education is gone. And this is what scares me is now we have a majority of people in power who are fundamentally against that scientific
opposed to education.
Exactly.
Scientific discovery.
Yeah. And they use a fear mongering tactic with it. I mean, not just with that, but even with like I know people are iffy about Common Core, but I'm kind of like, I don't see the problem with having a common core of values or educational things to teach people.
Yeah.
Well, let me put it this way. If we were not teaching creationism in schools, we wouldn't need a fucking Common Core.
Yeah, exactly. But that's the thing is people are like, we want to teach what we want to teach in school. We want to teach what we think is valuable in school. Like, no, teach what fucking needs to be taught. Not what you hold sacred. Not what you believe. Teach the fucking
What
shit.
has your Bible demonstrated as true since its inception?
Nothing.
Versus all of the scientific discoveries, all of the mathematical discoveries, anything that you want to think of, what has your Bible given us other than that which was originally written on the pages?
Or what has
there's no prophetic information in there. There's no discovery to be made. There's no learning about anything. The only thing that you would learn from the Bible is what the Bible says about fucking ignorant sheep herders in the Bronze Age.
Yeah. Bunch of cave Jews.
But it also doesn't spawn any desire to learn and to grow.
If you have all of the answers, as Ken Ham says, all of the answers for your life are contained in this one fucking book, why would you ever step outside your fucking door? Why would you ever learn about anything else around you? All of your answers are laid out in one fucking book for you.
I know of a book.
A book? Well, were you there when it was written?
How many times has religion changed to accommodate science? Versus how many times science has changed to accommodate religion.
Didn't the LDS Church just change it this fucking week again?
They change all the time. As I said, if you don't, my Mormon friends, if you don't believe in evolution, study the history of your church.
What? That works for
it
Catholics
evolves
too,
all
man.
the fucking time.
It works for Catholicism too.
Yeah, every religion.
Not that they're allowing women into the priesthood, but they're allowing women into a special meeting now.
Yeah,
they're special.
They made it part of the general conference, which is big because if you go back to the Journal of Discourses, it was supposed to be separate.
Yeah,
because there was no priesthood, there was no authoritative speeches. It was basically the Relief Society was made to because the way Joseph Smith writes about Emma is that she was a controlling bitch. I like to think
that
that
let me fuck all the 14-year-olds.
Yeah, exactly. I like to think that she was a reasonably educated woman.
Dude, she was so tolerant.
Yeah.
Like, that fucking guy was a creepy asshole, man. And abusive, too.
Hey, Joe, did you fuck another girl?
God damn it. Well, the babysitter again?
The babysitter again?
Yeah, I hid in her bedroom all night. How did you know about that? Yeah.
Yeah, that's all fucking creepy. I don't understand. I have a really hard time with my LDS friends and family members who are like faithful LDS people. I don't understand how that is a thing in the 21st century.
They don't read.
Yeah.
Well, they do, but just the bomb.
No, they don't even read that. Okay,
I've got the quad.
Here's, if you don't mind, the church, and this is why it needs to be defined as a fucking cult. Okay. Because the church controls the information, not just reading material, but the type of media that you put it into your brain sphere, whatever. So they control it. They control what you're reading. They control what movies you're watching. They control what music you're listening to, and that's all.
And they direct their members. They direct their members to go out online and provide good reviews of their local church ward house and all of this grassroots bullshit to try to make the church look better through its membership.
Yeah.
And I mean, look at it this way. When you look at a major metropolitan area, and I'm not calling Salt Lake a major metropolitan area. Sorry for the offense of people who have
don't worry about it.
It's a small podunk town compared to, New York City and everything of that
Chicago,
sort.
LA,
but it's still the biggest city in Utah. and it's still
it's the biggest city for miles.
Yeah,
to be honest. Well, I mean, Denver, Vegas.
But you look at international centers where people are coming in. You have a circulation of a lot of new ideas that are coming in. When you have very conservative areas, let's look at Utah County. There's not a lot of circulation of new ideas coming through, and that's why. That's why religions still exist. That's why we have the Bible Belt. That's why we have the Mormon fundamentalist camps. That's why we have them, because there's no new ideas coming in.
I would agree.
And the members are taught
to very little diversity.
Exactly. And the members are taught to fear those new ideas through confirmation bias. Yep. And the church adamantly teaches members, I don't know if teaches, but they employ cognitive dissonance and confirmation bias into their members.
Dude, a lot of it's just straight up sexism and racism.
Yeah,
and it's not thought of that way by the small. Like, I live in Utah County, and I mean, I'm from Boston originally, but you see a lot of that, like, where it's just it's not thought of as racism or sexism. It's the teachings of the church. Men and women are just different. And and I've even tried to say publicly, in situations with my girlfriend's family, say, who live in Spanish Fork and super religious, that I'm a feminist, which seems weird to them.
Yeah, guys can be feminists as well,
right? Yeah. And then it sparks this whole thing, and it's like, well, it's just about equal rights but men and women are just different. And it's just like, what the fuck? Like, what? You see, that doesn't strike you immediately.
We're both human. We both have feelings.
They're equal, but in different ways. Women have their specific duties, and men have their specific duties.
And here's the thing: like, if you accept, again,
you just open up and crack open that vagina for us. That's your duty. We'll get paid more for the same fucking job, and that's our duty.
And don't forget the dishes.
You know what?
And we have our special magic powers.
What? Get in the fucking kitchen and make me a baby right now.
Right.
All right, I got the Lord's power. I got the fucking priesthood. The effing priesthood.
If you put that accent on, you could probably run for president right now.
I could. I love God. God has spoken to me about this country. My name is Joshua Fullmer, and I'm running for president in 2016. I'm a Republican.
Of course you are.
And I have never sucked a dick before in my life. I have never inhaled marijuana.
I've tried to suck my own, but that's a different story.
Yeah. But that's okay with us Republicans. That's just experimentation, man.
I did notice, for some fucked up reason, that Duck Dynasty dude was all over the news being like, oh, it's Duck Dynasty, whoever Phil Robertson was his name.
Yeah.
He supports this candidate. He supports this candidate. And there's
I should care because Phil's such an informed fucking person.
Well, then he had a whole spiel about, you got to vote for this guy because if you don't vote for him, all your religious liberties and you're America and it's all going to be gone. Those liberals are going to take it and they're going to basically shove it down the sink.
Fuckers like that guy confuse liberties with privilege.
Yes. Yeah, they do.
Well, remember 10 years ago it was Chuck Norris.
Yeah.
Chuck Norris was in the same fucking position that Phil Robertson's in now. Yeah. He's like, if you don't vote for President Bush, I'll roundhouse kick you to the fucking face.
Yeah, I remember that.
Because I'm 75 and I look like I'm 40, and that's because I run on a Nordic track.
Dude, and I have this amazing wig.
And I have an amazing wig and a wife who is 30 years younger than I am.
Mm-hmm. I would fear Chuck Norris. I'm voting Bush, even though he can't come in a third time.
Well, Jeb Bush, who's been noted the retarded son of the Bush family, which is fucking scary.
That's so scary.
That's why I actually asked a friend the other day.
Jeb Bush is the retarded son. What the fuck was George?
To think that George is the achiever in the family, right?
Exactly.
Jed must be fucked up. No, I'd actually asked a friend the other day. I'm like, who do you think is the Republican nominee going to be for president? I'm like, well, I honestly think it's going to be Jed Bush. I'm like, are you fucking serious?
No, it probably is, because he's had a brother and a dad.
We've got Christie.
Yeah, Christie.
We've got Chris Christie. We've got Jeb Bush. We've got Ted Cruz.
I think
Texas
Cruz is,
governor. Is he going to
Rick Perry. Rick Perry
is he going to run again?
Rick Perry.
I think he's going to run again. There's no way he's not.
I don't know that he is.
He is. He's trying to remake himself. He's got the new glasses.
I think he's got plenty of support.
Yeah. Oh, are they horn rimmed glasses?
I still think
Ted. He's like, I got myself a nice suit, paid for by you taxpayers.
I still think Ted Cruz is the scariest one.
Oh yeah.
So I think a lot of Rick Perry guys went to Cruz when all that shit went down.
Yeah, and there is no I try to put myself in other shoes a lot of the time, right? Like, and try to find.
You can get athletes for that.
I try.
Which is also why I get called the hardliner on this show.
I try to find redeeming qualities in people that I disagree with, right? And I can find no redeeming qualities in Ted Cruz other than that, if I were looking for the smarmiest motherfucker on the planet, that would be my guy.
Yeah.
You look up douche nozzle in the Webster Dictionary, you're going to see a picture of Ted Cruz.
Even if I were Republican, I would fear this fucking dipshit. Like, he's opposed to immigration, though he's an immigrant.
Yeah.
He's opposed to education. He's opposed to science. He's opposed to taxation. I mean, and I can understand why
poor. He's opposed to minorities. He's opposed to women.
He is the Antichrist. That was the only term that I could think of. He's just an evil, smarmy, greasy motherfucker. I can't find any redeeming qualities in Ted Cruz.
Well, I've said it before. We got to go to South Chicago, get some of that Ebola, and give it to everybody. All the Republicans. Just get them right out of here.
Can I have a cell phone too?
It's an easy solution.
I like a cell phone.
That was our President Barack Obama.
Socialized health care.
You sound like Obama.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I was doing.
He does a good Obama, I think.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, I can't find any redeeming qualities in Ted Cruz, and that's a rarity. Like I
got one redeeming quality, possibly.
What's that?
If they actually do get a Tea Party vote on the ballot, he will be their candidate, which will split the Republican vote between the extreme conservative.
That's not really a.
They're pushing. They want it.
No, I'm just saying that's not really a.
It's a redeeming fact in the point of he's going to split the Republican vote between two people.
Yeah, it's good if you're. But I'm just like, I think Dan's talking about more on a human level.
Yeah. Oh, human level, he's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
The only redeeming quality he has is he's going to fuck over the Republican Party. If he makes a Tea Party.
He could be classified as
on a ballot.
Human.
Yeah. No, I think that's a very valuable statement actually there, because we're talking about the damages are going to happen, and certainly they're going to come to where we're going to have anti-education, anti-science, reduced budget for NASA, the things that we've been fighting for. I mean, I can only fucking imagine when the state or the federal Supreme Court is forced to actually hear the case for LGBT and same-sex marriages, what's going to actually come of that. Because part of our redeeming factor right now is they have refused to hear the case. Yeah. And that means that the judgment of the district court, that's the judgment that states that it's unconstitutional. Now, if the Supreme Court hears that case, then there could potentially be another ruling.
I think they would be really, really hard pressed to justify ruling against it at this point. I mean, none of the arguments that have been proposed stand up to scrutiny. You get people saying that children do better in a two-parent household where it's a mother and father. Okay, so then are you going to say that single mothers need to give up their children? Elderly people who can't have children can't get married anymore. People who are infertile can't get married anymore. I mean, it's
or you're required to have children if you do get married.
Yeah, all of the arguments against same-sex marriage fall flat on their fucking face. There are no good arguments against it.
Yeah, and I definitely see your point, but I mean, look at what's happening with climate change. That should not be a fucking argument. We should not be going in there. But when we have the fucking head of what was it? The climate change. fucking whatever.
Well, you had the Weather Channel guy that came out, and the Weather Channel's like, he worked for us for 1 year when it started up. He was never even a part of the Weather Channel.
Who's not a real scientist. He's a fucking weather guy.
Yeah, forget about climate change. Evolution shouldn't be an argument.
No,
the Bible shouldn't. Religion shouldn't be an argument.
Exactly, but it is, and that's the thing that frightens me is because I can look at things.
It's a major political
are
point
very
right
very
now.
Detrimental to us as a species.
Yep,
like very detrimental. If we don't change how we're consuming, we're gonna fuck over the planet. I mean, environments are always gonna exist, but whether or not we can exist,
well, the planet will be fine.
How much more advanced would we be were it not for religion?
Yep.
You know, how many extrasolar planets would we have visited by now?
Yep.
How many other places would we have colonized outside of the planet Earth by now?
Well, let's
assuming we could all work together as one without religion.
Well, let's put
which
it,
would still be, but I know what you mean. That's a major speed bump for sure.
Let's put it this way. Look at 1,500 years ago. What the they weren't even the Islamic nation, but the Middle East. You know, with algebra, with basically every single
astronomy and
scientific and mathematic theories that we still use today.
So
that were discovered there prior.
That was 1,500 years ago.
Algebra is a good. That's a good example. That's an Islamic. There's an Arabic word, and so is algorithm. And
I want to hit on that real quick because I heard an apologist argument to that.
By all means,
where he said at that time the Muslims were taking over all the Christians and they were fighting wars against Christians. They were taking basically all the Christian scientists and all of their ideas away from them.
Oh, that's horseshit.
Claiming it as their own. So it wasn't really Muslims who came up with it. It was Christians who came up with it.
Did you, Josh?
I was like,
did any of you guys happen to attend Neil deGrasse Tyson's talk when he came here?
Did. I fucking wanted to.
I did. It was awesome. And he touched on that. He talked about, pre-super fundamentalist religious Middle East where all of these innovations were coming out, all of these scientific discoveries, all of these great math discoveries.
Yes. Yep. He also addresses it. And
then when it stopped was when religious fundamentalists
Dark Ages are called dark for a reason.
Yeah, when the Islamic movement really took place. But the thing is Christianity was still viewed as a cult. You know, it was
outside the norm.
It was still not mainstream. So to go in there would be like, well, you know, they were just taking over the Westboro Baptist Church and stealing all their ideas, which is fucking ludicrous.
Yeah, right.
You know, that's exactly
that's
what
a great
saying.
point. Yeah. That's a great point, actually. We weren't stealing your ideas because your ideas were shit.
Yeah. You know, so and I want to say that Neil deGrasse Tyson also in his show that I did, the revamp of Cosmos, which you can actually view on Netflix now, and I encourage all the listeners to do so. Mm-hmm. There's a whole episode on that, on the contributions that the Arabic nations made to science and mathematics prior to religion coming in and infiltrating the culture.
Yeah. He also has a pretty in-depth speech about that at Beyond Belief 2006 at the science conference, where he talks quite in depth about the Arabic contributions to modern science.
I just wonder if the whole argument to that now is saying, well, that was originally it was Christian ideas. The Arabs went in there, they beat them, they took the ideas from them. That's more of the what are we calling it nowadays? The Islamophobia or whatever. Where it's like, we're like, well, we just don't like anything to do with Muslim culture, and we don't want to admit that they actually were a very powerful, great culture at one point and gave us a lot of shit we have nowadays. We're more advanced than us at one point.
And they also weren't like the Muslims we know today. I mean, they were very accepting, much more secular.
Well,
it wasn't a religious fundamentalist.
Which they were for.
It'd be like comparing the UK today, where most individuals who live in the UK, they might still claim religion out of I've been in the Church of England my whole life. My parents have been. Do you go to church?
Out of tradition and culture.
Like, who the fuck goes to church? Who the fuck believes in God? But no, I'm a Christian.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. I'm a Christian, but no, I don't fucking
they claim Christianity the same way they claim being Britain.
Yeah. Exactly. Right. It's just something
in the UK was the first to have the atheist church.
Yeah.
Or even more close to home, it might be like Alabama versus Massachusetts, or Texas or Utah versus Washington State. Like it's a huge gap between what we think we think they were like, or what they are like now, and what they actually were.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And people talk about the United States of America, and yeah, we're united as a nation in that we all fall under the same banner and the same flag and everything. But I mean, you find huge cultural differences between states, even within a state.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're in Salt Lake City, it's fairly liberal. It's fairly liberal, normal.
Coffee shops everywhere.
Affirming.
Compared to the rest of
Salt
the
Lake
state,
City
yeah.
has, I think, the second largest or the largest population of gays per capita in the
it
United
does have
States.
I think
that,
it is
yeah.
the largest now.
You step outside of Salt Lake
capita,
City,
yeah.
you go to Utah County or Davis County, and it's completely opposite.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, super fucking fundamentalist, LDS
Uptight.
and uptight, red state. I mean, outside Salt Lake City as a core, Utah is really, really, really not progressive.
Just like Texas, if you get it outside of Austin.
Or Oregon, for that matter. I mean, Portland really is the only liberal place, or along the coast. But you go into eastern, even Washington State.
Even Washington, yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, we were watching
Washington,
we were watching the election returns last night, and they threw up the map, and it had Oregon as a red state, and Tracy said, "Really, Oregon's a red state, but what about Portland?" And I'm like, "It's like Salt Lake City.
It's only Portland."
Yeah,
but but the thing, and this is kind of brings it back.
You get outside the suburban areas.
Well, that's the thing too. I was thinking, I'm like, why? I mean, you already kind of answered why, but you get more of the liberal mindset, or more of the scientific, or more open-mindedness in large cities. The further you go away from it, the more closed-minded and
the more
closed
rural,
off they are.
more urban areas you get into.
Because you have that more of that exchange of information, more of the exchange of cultures and learning. And
let me expand it one step further. I mean, when you have a homogenous society, so you look at Utah as homogenous as you can get. I mean, everybody's fucking Mormon. Knows Mormons, has been Mormon,
white,
whatever.
Mormon,
exactly.
Racist.
People, when you have a homogenous culture, racist, very racist. People are going to rebel in predictable ways, and they're going to rebel in the things that homogenous culture tells you that you're not allowed to do, i.e., drink coffee, drink beer. And so Utah has some of the best breweries, small breweries that I've ever come
Absolutely.
across.
The counterculture here is awesome.
And that's exactly it. It's been labeled at times counterculture or progressive culture, subcultures, whatever it is. But fundamentally, it's a rebellion against homogenous culture. Mm-hmm. And you see that all the time. And they are always attracted to hubs where new ideas are coming in. So when you have Portland, which that's where the airport is, Portland was not always the most liberal place.
Sure.
For years they tried really hard to be Seattle, and they just failed drastically. And so they just opened the door and said, "You know what? Fuck it." Exactly. They said, "Fuck it." Hipsters. We've tried to get
Portlandia.
Yeah, we've tried to get people to come down here. No one's coming, so fuck it. It's a hipster city. Come on, hipsters. But it's become a very liberal place in the past 10, 15, even 20 years, because people are from all over the state are attracted to that exchange of information, that exchange of new ideas.
And it's the diversity that does it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, Utah is not at all a very diverse place.
Yeah, exactly.
The most diverse place in Utah is Salt Lake City, and that's where you find the more progressive, liberal ideals being exchanged, because you don't have the luxury of viewing people outside your religious beliefs, your cultural beliefs, your upbringing as other, because you're constantly surrounded by them. You get to know them. You recognize them as other human beings and part of the human experience.
Yep.
You don't get to demonize them as other.
Yeah, and I'll tell you the simplest trick to realize whether or not there's an exchange of information within any kind of city, town, hamlet, village, wherever the fuck you're going. Look at the restaurants that they have. If they have a lot of different foods, and not just one. I'm not just saying, hey, Olympia, Washington has like 10,000 Asian restaurants. That's great. That means there's an exchange of ideas. No, that just means you have a fucking lot of Asian immigrants coming in.
Yeah, a lot more of the multicultural.
Exactly. You look at Salt Lake City now. Within the past 5 to 8 years. I mean, I've only been here 3, but from the information I've gathered within the past 5 to 8 years, there's been such an influx of different kinds of restaurants. We have people who are coming in as
It's no longer just American or Italian.
Exactly.
Right. Or Mexican.
It's Greek, Asian, Mexican.
Well, Greek's been here a long time.
You've got Somali restaurants. You've got, people from all over the place.
And there's that Greek Orthodox Church in Salt Lake that's been there since like the 1800s.
Yeah,
it's actually a really cool building to go look at because I kind of like.
And the Greek festival.
Greek festival.
The Greeks helped settle Utah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's
it was just the Mormons.
Yeah, it was just the Mormons. Just the Mormons. They were so persecuted. But that is the best indication that you have a circulation of ideas is based upon the food, because that's the first, especially when you have language barriers. That's the first thing that somebody can share of their culture.
Yeah,
that's basically
everybody has to eat.
That's them sharing their life story with you. So if you come into a just a couple block radius and you say, okay, I have a pizza joint, I have Somali, I have Ethiopian, I have Brazilian, Italian, and just within a couple blocks of each other.
Right.
That's a good indication that you're going to have a fairly liberal mindset.
Yeah, a lot of diversity.
Yeah. If you come into a large city and you just see barbecue and chuckarama, what's that?
Run for the hills.
Yeah, Provo.
Yeah.
Well, fucking, zombie apocalypse is going to.
Yeah, well, I know it's like a lot of people come visit, and there's like they ask the locals, which is what you do. Mm-hmm. Where's the best place to eat? And they say Olive Garden. You're like, well, no. All right. Well, this is not diverse enough.
Yeah. Well, you're a conservative fucktard.
That's the Italian McDonald's. So,
I usually recommend a bar.
I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Like in Ogden where I live, I go, hey, go to Roosters. Roosters got some good food.
Good stuff.
They got some good beer. Yeah. If you want to go have a good time, just go chill at Roosters.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely.
Not Chuckorama.
No.
I've never even eaten at a Chuckorama. We've had guys that do retirement things where they're doing, free food at Chuckorama, and I still won't fucking go.
Free food at Chuckorama, that's like, you might as well just hand me a free bag of turd.
Is that only here in Utah? Because I've never heard of it before.
It's got to be.
I think so.
I don't know.
It's strictly a Utah buffet eating establishment.
They might have some in Idaho because Idaho.
Yeah,
there's good people watching at Chuckorama though.
Is there?
Like if you just go to Chuckorama and sit and just look at the different people going through the buffet line, it's kind of interesting.
Yeah. For all of our national and international listeners,
as an anthropologist, you would probably.
I have done it.
It's like a low class Golden Corral. If that makes sense.
If
it's like
Golden
Chuck
Corral
E. Cheese
can be
without
considered
the
high class, sure.
No, I'm not saying it's high. I'm saying that's how bad Chuckorama is.
Yeah. It's like the poor man's.
It's a poor man's Chuckorama. A poor man's Golden Corral.
It's where you take your 15 children to feed at the trough.
Yes.
At the trough. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
When one of your sections of the buffet is just like goldfish crackers and macaroni and cheese. Fuck everything about you, man.
Right. Fucking Dan never understanding me.
No,
all right, let's hit it.
Yeah, so what you have for news this week?
Let's hit it. We got one news. We'll wrap it up here. Isaiah Zohar Marin, 21 years old, is charged with first-degree murder for the killing of Jacob Andrew Crockett, 19. Marin is accused of using a, quote, long knife or sword to kill Crockett. According to the court affidavit, the suspect, Marin, is described as a religious zealot and heavy drug user. The victim is the son of
Those seem somewhat incompatible. I don't know.
I know, right? But the victim's the son of an Oklahoma State trooper. Police report the victim had what appeared to be multiple deep slash and stab wounds, and the head was mostly severed from the body.
Well, at least it wasn't all the way severed.
So he was like nearly headless Nick from
Yeah.
from fucking Harry Potter.
I've never watched that because I'm not a child, so I don't know.
Oh, I love the Harry Potters. Come on.
Says the oldest guy in the room. Marin was watching videos on YouTube related to his Christian beliefs and the Book of Matthew before the murder. The document also notes that Marin had feuded with Crockett in the past because the victim was practicing witchcraft.
Oh.
The defendant's brother, Samuel Marin, said in the past Jacob and Isaiah had disagreements because Jacob had been practicing witchcraft and Isaiah had strong Christian beliefs.
What does he qualify as witchcraft?
And what does he qualify as Christian?
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, and therein lies the other problem we got with our society now, where it's like, well, no, we're a Judeo-Christian society. Anything else, go fuck yourself.
Well, I would almost argue this is very strictly Christian.
Well, yeah, but not the witchcraft though.
No, sure,
but her saying that
his reaction to it is actually more Christian than the way Christians
But
behave.
it's not following the way our society is supposed to be, where you're allowed to be able to practice any religion you see fit to practice.
But that's not. I agree with you.
Yeah, but I mean,
it's
according
not
to
the Christian way,
according to the Bible, I mean,
to allow
he's not
others
really.
to practice.
Well, yeah, but it's not their way, but it's this country's fucking rules.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah, I agree.
Again, proof of the pudding that this isn't a Christian nation.
Yes.
Right.
Because if it was a Christian nation, we would have an established
Christian
we wouldn't
religion.
have. There would no way this would happen right here. This podcast, if this was a Christian nation.
I've often wondered which of the Christian denominations would make up our Christian nation.
Yeah,
I think it would most likely
be a
Baptist.
Protestant?
Baptist or Protestant. It wouldn't be Catholic.
It would be
Protestant.
Anglican.
Protestant.
Anglican?
I was going after what would have been around in 1776. The most predominant religion.
I'd say Anglican.
I was thinking Baptist or Protestant.
Yeah.
It would be Protestant, but it'd be Anglican.
Yeah, Anglican.
Well, Baptists are Protestants too, right?
Yeah, they are. But
but they were the most prevalent, I thought, at that
Now?
time. No, in 1776 when we were becoming a country.
Well, not where the founding fathers were coming from.
No, that would
have been Anglican.
Yeah.
The Church of England.
Yeah, that's what they
100%.
Yeah,
but they weren't. Some were that, but others
people that were splitting away from that, they didn't want to be part of the Church of England
and
anymore.
others were certain other Protestants. There was Catholics
because
there was
also
actually atheists and deists.
I'm fairly certain, if I remember right, there was actually a tax at that time if you weren't a part of. It wasn't the Church of England
in the Americas.
In the Americas, before we became a country.
If you were
for
the Puritans,
but if you're also like a Baptist or Protestant or anything like that, you were taxed.
That would have been the Anglicans then.
That were taxing them for
the colonies. Yeah,
sure. So they already. That's why I was saying that there were Baptists, there were Protestants here, and they wanted nothing to do with the Anglican side of it. They wanted to be free to practice their religion.
The Anglican Church, the Church of England, was the ones that implemented the taxes, which was the fundamental reason why.
For anyone who opposed them,
exactly.
And
why they
colonies,
were fleeing the persecution of religion, why they were fleeing the taxation of it was specifically from the Anglican Church.
Yeah. That's why I'm trying to say I don't think it was them that would have been.
No, they wouldn't have been taxed, but
no, the predominant religion in like when we're trying to form a new society and boom, hey, we're a new society.
Yeah.
But that would take the founding fathers actually having belief in organized religion, which a lot of them didn't.
They didn't. That's why they gave you the freedom to practice different religions. But it was actually the Baptists that wrote to Jefferson asking for a state religion, wasn't it?
I don't know.
Where we came up with that's where the letter came out. I was trying to think of it. I thought it was the most famous one where he wrote the line.
There was Congregationalists,
separation of church and state, or put a wall up between church and state.
Congregationalists had a problem with.
I always thought it was funny. My old neighbor in Clearfield, when I first moved into that home there, my first neighbors directly to the south of me were Baptist, and I was out mowing the yard one day, and finished up with a bag and went to dump it in the garbage, and I went walking by the fence, and my neighbor, was there, and she's like, "Hey, hi, I'm your new neighbor, blah blah blah." Yeah, and we kind of struck up a little conversation, and she's like, "So, yeah, we've come from, my husband's from Wisconsin. I'm from Texas, and we're both, we just kind of feel like Utah's kind of strange, like it's not, people here don't seem very friendly." And I said, "Well, are you LDS?" And she says, "Oh, no. And I said, "Oh," she says, "We're Baptists."
Yeah, that's your problem.
And I thought, you somehow think you're so much better than the Mormons here. If you're a practicing fundamentalist Baptist, then you're kind of worse, really, in my eyes. And they were the kind of Baptists who would invite us over for margaritas and drinks and barbecue and everything, but wouldn't tell our other neighbors who were 2 homes to the north of us who were also Baptists who attended the same church. They would never invite them to the barbecues where they were having margaritas because
it's like the why do you invite 2 Mormons camping joke.
Yeah.
So they don't drink your beer.
Because if you invite one, he'll drink all of your beer.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's finish this article real quick. And
okay.
So Marin is the murderer. And his brother said, in the past, Jacob, the victim, and Isaiah, the assailant, had disagreements.
2 very biblical names.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say.
Yeah, because Jacob had been, quote, practicing witchcraft, and Isaiah had strong Christian beliefs. Police say the 2 men were acquaintances and Crockett was attending class at Northern Oklahoma College, but was planning on transferring to OSU. Marin's Facebook features many posts professing his love for God, with the latest public post being on August 8th of this year. This happened on October 30th. And the post reads, "Tried to take on a demon, and God had to help me through the tough parts."
Ooh. Oh, sweet Jesus. I have a relative who takes on demons and Satan whenever he's drunk and posts that shit to Facebook.
Marin went on to say, "Got to be careful with my words and pay closer attention to my emotions. Need to figure out how to keep on speaking when I'm with the presence of the Lord God."
Oh, yeah.
Because God only speaks,
when I'm high.
17th century English.
Yeah. When I got ye needle in thy arm.
Which is another thing I always thought was fucking weird whenever I went to LDS church, was all the thee and thou and thine and blah, blah, blah. Does God not understand fucking modern English?
No, he doesn't.
I never understood that when I was in church. That was one of the other questions that I always had.
I mean, have you read the Bible? I mean, God's not the smartest character.
It's got to be the King James version, right? Though not the New International version.
He's not the smartest cookie. I mean, let's just face it. I mean, science is proving God wrong all the fucking time.
Yeah, I know I've said it before, but whenever people knock on my door, it's the easiest thing to do is just open the door and say, "Dinosaurs, go." No answer. There's nobody even attempts it.
Yeah.
But he goes on, according to the affidavit, Marin told police, quote, "I murdered someone and was rambling about sacrificing and magic." During a news conference, Stillwater Police Captain Randy Dickerson emphasized that the case is not related to recent cases of beheadings by Islamic extremists.
No, just a Christian extremist.
Exactly, yeah.
Which there are no fucking difference.
So Isaiah sacrificed Jacob?
Yes.
It seems like that happened once before.
Or didn't it almost happen?
It almost happened.
Maybe
I don't think those
she was
guys
just
were alive at the same time.
So
there's Jacob and Esau, but Isaiah was way before. He was way before them.
So the apologist's argument for this would be, even coming from a lot of atheists I know, would be, oh well, he obviously had mental health issues, and this would have happened whether he was a Christian or not.
I don't disagree. I agree he has mental health issues.
Oh, yeah.
He's a Christian zealot.
Yeah,
and this is, okay.
With a needle in his
arm. We have a guest here. This is where I'm going to be accused of taking a hard line here because he's the guy.
Not. I'm going to probably agree with you.
This is the guy that takes the middle ground, and Ryan tends to kind of agree.
I play devil's advocate.
Yes. Okay. So this is why I'm the hard line guy. But no, of course he has mental health issues. He fucking murdered someone
that are aggravated by his religious beliefs, which is what I would say, and I would probably be in full agreement with you if we're going down this road that I'm saying. Sure,
we lost the episode when they couldn't figure out how.
No, actually, seriously, I wanted to upload it.
On me
where he has mental health issues
how to beat it.
that are just aggravated by his fucking stupid backward ass religious beliefs.
I agree.
Yeah. Well,
I
that's
agree.
what I'm saying.
To be a zealot, you're fucking insane.
Yeah.
He could have been mentally disturbed and praised Harry Potter at the same time and tried to kill him with a wand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, fucking Patronum Zabadoo, whatever the fuck they say.
Zabadoo.
It's all the same shit. I don't
sound like David
doesn't
Lee
matter.
Roth.
You are such
zippity bop, zippity bop.
You are such not a Harry Potter nerd.
No, fuck
you lied. You watched it.
No, Jesus, I'm 30 years old, man. What the fuck? Why would I care about Harry Potter?
Patronus is not a killing spell. Gosh.
Yeah, but Zabadoo is.
Yes.
All right.
I make up my own fucking spells.
When you add them together, it's fucking deadly, Dan.
I am the devil. I do the devil's work. Okay. Yeah, I was going to say, as a demon, as
Avada Kedavra.
I take offense to that story. As a demon, I take offense to that story.
Yeah.
Okay. But just I'd like to say something about the mental illness and everything like that.
Yeah, sure.
So psychology and anthropology, they diverge on a lot of issues.
Yeah, well, psychology is really a soft science.
It's about the individual, where anthropology is more about the cultural traditions that drive the behavioral.
It's a hard science. It's based on evidence, not
exactly
not personal experience.
Yeah. So I do have an example that I briefly go through to kind of illustrate this, but. So we're looking at a guy who's obviously, I mean, I'm not disagreeing that he has a mental illness. I mean, obviously he murdered somebody in the name, but the thing is his religion allows that. And that's based upon his understanding of morality, his understanding of ethical codes, his understanding of, what is acceptable in the society based upon his religious mores. That feeds into his mental psychosis, which is already there and
exacerbates.
Yeah, exactly. Fuck, I'm drunk. Exacerbates the problem.
Stacy's driving, right?
Yeah, she is driving. I had.
She's drunk too. Just kidding.
Yeah. So I had an example.
She hasn't said it twice.
I had an example that I had prepared specifically about the word of wisdom. One aspect of it, coffee and tea. To kind of illustrate the point where. Just a misunderstanding of the scientific method, misunderstanding of facts can lead to a massive psychosis. So we have the word of wisdom, which states specifically that hot drinks are not for the belly. So we get that,
and the word of wisdom is the LDS churches. It's part of their. It's in the Doctrine and Covenants, right?
Yeah.
The word of wisdom is in the Doctrine and Covenants, which is part of the quad set of liturgical texts within the LDS Church that tells you the word of wisdom section specifically tells you how to live your life. It's dietary restrictions. I think it talks about. It's not just dietary. It's dietary. It's how to treat other people. It's who you associate with. It's basically how to live your life.
Yeah. And for the listeners out there, if you happen to be Mormon and have a Book of Mormon or know somebody that has a quad set Doctrine and Covenants, it's in section 89. But it specifically outlines that hot drinks are not for the belly. And so there really is no explanation other than hot drinks are not for the belly. So what the fuck does that mean? Well, in the 19th century, and this is part of the conversation that me and Dan had over Facebook today, was that, about the pseudoscience in LDS history and doctrine. One of the major things in the 18th and 19th century was a theory called the four humors, which you had four different liquids in your body: the yellow bile, black bile, phlegm, and blood. And I won't get into too much detail for that, but those levels had to maintain a specific level to be a good, righteous person. Now, we know that there are different, we know that now it's plasma, blood, water, all those different things, because scientific understanding has allowed us to move past the theory of the four humors. But in the 19th century, it was believed that if these four humors, if they were offset a little bit, and this is where the white and delightsome, like if you become closer to God, you become lighter in skin.
Right.
It comes directly from the four humors.
Which has evolved now into pure and delightsome within LDS texts.
Exactly. But they believe that many different things could affect your righteousness. And so one of those things, which the Mormon Church will never admit to, was Emma Smith was a member of the Coldwater Society, which believed specifically that any kind of vapors that were coming off of hot beverages, hot soups, anything like that, evil spirits actually lived in the vapors. In the vapors.
Wow! And
that by
so this is the Coldwater Society.
This is the Coldwater Society
that you mentioned. During our conversation.
So
I was curious to know what exactly you meant.
Yeah. So Emma Smith was, and this started in the Byzantine Empire. So thousands of years ago, the Coldwater Societies, where they believed, because they didn't understand water vapor, they didn't understand what was going on. So by drinking just a hot cup of beverage would invite those evil spirits into me. And so it says specifically, and this is from 1868, we are told, and very plainly too, that hot drinks, tea, coffee, chocolate, cocoa, and all drinks of this kind are not good for man. We must feed our children properly. We must not permit them to drink liquor or hot drinks or hot soups, or to use tobacco or other articles that are injurious. And that was from George Q. Cannon. And that's a direct response to the Four Humors, where if you were to...
And George Q. Cannon was
a Mormon apostle.
Correct.
He was a Mormon apostle in 1868. And that became part of Mormon doctrine. And that was based off of a misunderstanding of science, because this was accepted science in 1868.
The demons were in the vapors?
That the demons, the evil spirits were in the vapors. The Mormon Church, even today, still cites Sylvester Graham, the creator of graham crackers, as one of the primary reasons that they have moved away from coffee and tea, because he was so adamantly against it. Now,
because he was pro milk.
Well, Sylvester Graham,
you can't dip graham crackers in coffee.
And here's the thing: Sylvester Graham and the Kellogg brothers, which were also Grahamites, they believed, and it also mentions this in the Word of Wisdom, that spicy foods, so exotic foods, breed exotic behaviors. Graham was adamantly against anything that had to do with sexuality, especially masturbation. So he created, and then the Kellogg brothers created bland cereals to curb masturbation. Cornflakes, because adhering to their diet would prevent impure thoughts, curbing masturbation, which masturbation was the lead for every single ailment that we ever had. If you masturbated, obviously you were going to get cancer.
I don't think cornflakes is a cure for that.
No, because I don't know about anybody else, but
it seems like a weird.
Yeah. Well, and now we know that masturbation actually helps men, at least in relieving prostate cancer, right?
No, exactly. It definitely does. But these are some of the crazy fuckers that were. They were the top scientists of their field, and they were quoting this. And this is what the Mormon Church was getting their information from.
Well, and that's why science is bad, is because it always changes.
Exactly.
You don't know. Tomorrow they could say that the sun doesn't actually rise and set, and we're not, the sun isn't the center of our solar system. It's something different.
That's Dan's Obama voice.
I do know when I eat a good bowl of Fruit
Bobby's
Loops.
World's mom. Do you remember that show? For corn's sakes,
Bobby.
For corn's sakes, Bobby.
I do know when I eat a good big bowl of Fruit Loops, all I want to do is jerk it, though. So
that's because you're into those exotic tastes.
For me, it's Captain Crunch.
Captain, he makes
dude,
you
that
go.
cuts the roof of my mouth, dude. I can't.
Right? Yeah, it's all about the pain.
The Captain makes you go wild.
It tears my mouth up, man.
Yeah, I just corn. It just seems weird. Cornflakes is a cure for something that was never a problem.
No, exactly. But so the reason I'm speaking of this is because it's almost like it's a general psychosis that feeds into the ideals of people. So then they do harmful things to not only themselves but to others around them. Based upon a misunderstanding of biology.
So this kid chopped off this guy's head because he was eating too many Fruit Loops? Is that
pretty much?
Okay.
Because if you think about it,
solved it.
Yeah, solved it. But if you think about it, if that religious psychosis, if that misunderstanding did not exist, then we wouldn't even be having this conversation. We would be like, this individual is definitely psychotic. But because we have so many different understandings of reality based upon misinformation and not understanding the scientific.
If you didn't have that
the basic science,
I would have been totally in disagreement.
And I liken this honestly to the GMO debate. I mean, I have several liberal friends who are totally against GMOs because they lack a basic understanding of the science behind them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the fucking dog that's so awesome upstairs? That's a fucking GMO dog.
Yeah. Well, I loved it when I think it was like Jimmy Kimmel went on the streets and was asking people, do you like GMOs? Like, no, I hate GMOs.
Bad.
What does GMO mean? Like, germ management organization?
Yeah.
No, it's genetically or not. Well, not even genetically. It's just
genetically modified.
Organism.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's as simple as taking two plants and splicing them together. It's genetically modified.
Well,
it's changing their genetics.
Yeah. Think about the gluten intolerant thing too.
Yeah.
It's like I'm gluten intolerant. Do you know what gluten is? It's something I'm intolerant to. It goes back to like Penn and Teller when they did the ban dihydrogen monoxide.
Yeah.
Nobody fucking knows what it is, but God damn it, it's my food. I'm going to fucking ban that.
I do have a friend who
die
legitimately
from dihydrogen monoxide all the time.
Yeah.
I do have a friend that legitimately is semi-allergic to glutens. Like he learned it from beer, like because there's gluten in beer.
Yeah.
And he's like, every time I drink beer, I shit and puke.
Does he have celiacs?
He's got something where because I can't eat bread, I can't eat anything with any gluten in it anymore because it makes me basically shit uncontrollably.
The thing is, bread was the very first processed food humans ever created.
Oh yeah. He had a problem shitting when we were kids too, though.
Bread and beer for I don't know 10,000 years since farming started, and all of a sudden in the last decade, everyone's fucking allergic to wheat.
I think some people. I mean, I think there's some people who are legitimately have allergies to things, and there's some people that are like, well, I just don't want to eat it.
What about sugar?
Yeah,
everybody.
But the thing
when
is,
are we going to be allergic to that?
Again,
that's a fucking problem.
Again, that's a popular notion that's based off of pseudoscience, and that's the damaging thing about pseudoscience is it can affect your perceived reality. And so you have a respected individual, or maybe not even a respected individual, but somebody who can say, well, Dr. Doogie Howser here says that fucking, we will make your penis fall off. And so they eat the fucking gluten and they're like, oh my God, my penis just fell off. But it's pseudo fucking science. And that's why the education is so important, because you teach people to read critically. So you read through
you're assuming people are going to read.
Well, they have to, and that's
they
the
don't.
Thing. They don't.
That's why we have this podcast.
Exactly. They don't. But not even the podcast. I mean, be very selective about the source of information that you have coming in.
Yeah, of course.
And if you're, for example, if you're watching Fox News or watching any kind of news source, fucking double check it. Fact check.
Yeah,
and I know it sucks.
Sean Hannity is pretty spot on usually.
Oh my God,
I fucking hate that guy.
Hey, does Fox have anything to do with like dish or satellite TV at all?
Well, they are
because CNN, HLN, and all those are no longer on Dish and Network or whatever.
CNN isn't on Dish. Dish fucking sucks.
At work, I can't watch. Like at work now, I'm forced to. People are like, "Oh, we're going to put Fox News on." I'm like, "Oh, fuck you, fucks."
But you get KSL, so it's a win-win. You get the BYU TV.
Yeah. Also lost Adult Swim, so no more Black Jesus at work.
Yeah, I've never been a big fan of fucking Dish. They've always been fucky.
I'm still looking at it's fucky. I'm still looking at getting rid of fucky Comcast. I'm thinking about maybe calling them up next week and having that fucking 3-hour long argument with them.
I honestly love DirecTV, man. They've always
canceling my shit.
Well.
Yeah, make sure you post it on YouTube.
No, nothing.
Just nothing.
Yeah, nothing.
No.
I don't watch
You're
cable
hardly
TV.
ever home anyway.
Yeah, I don't. And when I am home and I watch TV, I don't watch cable TV anyway. Like I'm paying an outrageous amount for them. Like I don't even fucking use it.
Yeah,
I need to get rid of it.
Yeah.
So my last question. I don't know how we haven't talked about this, but Supreme Court ruling that secular humanism is a religion.
Okay, in the context of why they ruled on it, I can semi agree with, because it was all over the guy in, was it California, that argued that, hey, I don't want to be sent to a religious organization for I don't know if he was an addict or what he was. He was the guy that won all the money. Basically, he's like, I'm an atheist, and you forced me to go to this. Then I didn't want to go to it.
$1.3 million.
Yeah, it was $1.3 million on the 12 step.
He's like, I'm an atheist. You forced me to go to a religious thing. I'm not religious. I don't want any part to do with that. So I didn't go, and then he forced me to go back to jail again because I didn't want to go take part in something religious. So it was his thing that got ruled as.
Are we gonna yell again, Ryan?
No, because I don't think it should be. I don't think humanists, atheists, any of that should be considered a religion.
No.
Okay.
There's no super.
You were saying
no. But in his case,
I thought you were saying he was the one that was making the case, and so in that case,
well, he won his case, and the Supreme Court came and said, well, humanists are recognized as a religious
secular
group.
humanism.
Humanism
is a recognized religion.
Yeah, I disagree with that.
I don't think it is either.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, it's and here's what,
and that's kind of the thing, like, right? I mean, you have all of these different religions. What is it? What is it if you are not religious? How do we classify you? How do we protect you? How do we guarantee your basic rights as a human being? If
the Constitution,
all of these, if all of these other religions are provided these special exceptions, to everything, how do we guarantee that you are able to to hold the same rights that we provide.
I am about to go Clover on you, Dan.
To all of these other things, and I agree with you that it's bullshit.
Yeah.
Dude,
but at
you
the
need
same
to
time,
strip all of that shit away. They
You
didn't
absolutely
deserve
agree.
those rights in the first place.
We all
that
agree
shit
on
needs
that.
to all be gone, and then you can start with the fucking Constitution, which says everyone has equal rights, and there's no fucking problem.
I absolutely
there shouldn't be tax
agree.
breaks.
Yeah.
There shouldn't be any of that other fucking shit that they're awarded for having a
I
church.
absolutely agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
But in light of the
the
world
problem
in which
is
we
we have
find
a-
ourselves, how do we reconcile?
Well, we have 4 fucking cardinals in the SCOTUS right now.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
And that's
the
part
fucking
of the
problem.
fight that this
The
atheist
only-
movement is about a little bit, is trying to say, hey,
We're not a religion.
we aren't a religion,
Yeah,
and
and
your
we're
religion
not.
doesn't supersede everyone else in this country, so
And
everyone
we're
has
not.
equal rights, so stop treating your religion as
Yeah,
any
and here's
special
another
human
So
being.
in order to obtain those equal rights that are afforded to religion, how do you then
Did you say equal electrolytes?
Yes.
I thought so.
What's that? You're watering your crops with
nice
Gatorade.
nice idiocracy reference.
They need their electrolytes.
Did I say electrolytes?
No, not quite. But
I don't know. I just
It wasn't
heard
right.
electrolytes and it needed to
it
happen.
wasn't right.
It's
But
Rondo.
Here's the thing that fucking terrifies me of that, because a lot of the American atheists, a lot of what their arguments and their suits are going for is that religious documentation, religious education does not belong in tax-funded public schools. If you want to do it in your fucking private school, fuck you, whatever. We
can't. There's no dog
But
in that
there's no recourse I have to say that you can't because you're a private institution.
Yeah, of course.
But tax-funded schools.
Yeah, of course.
I mean,
Yeah.
the fact that Utah has a fucking seminary program that you can
Yeah, which is
elect out
bullshit.
of, a science class and go to fucking seminary. I mean, that's bullshit.
Yeah.
But now my fear is, and any of you correct me if I'm wrong, but my fear now is that the things that American atheists and the humanists, ACLU, everybody's pushing for, we need to teach evolution in schools. We need to teach science in schools. We need to bring people back to be scientifically educated. Now the things that we're pushing for, the people that don't believe in that, which is fucking bullshit in the first place, but the people that don't believe in that and are so stupid that they can't form an articulate thought, they're going to come back, which surprisingly makes up 55% of our Senate now. They can say, you know what? You guys are a religion. That can be counted as religious text because that's what you believe in.
No.
Some of them are
That's a
already
good
trying to do
argument
it.
against it. Yeah.
Yeah, some were already trying to do it to try to get evolution pulled out of school. They're like, well, evolution is this sets a religious belief, and then, since we can't teach religion in school, you can't teach evolution in school.
Yeah. No. Yeah, but no.
But that's what some people are trying to push.
Yes,
Yeah.
but they still have to prove that we worship a supernatural being or there's some other dimension.
But here's what takes the cake. All they got to do is fucking vote on it.
Yeah. And I mean, look at what the current situation with the Supreme Courts and basically every single court in every single country, they will absolutely refuse. I mean, look at what Tom, the creator and main editor
Tom
of
Green.
Mormon, Mormon
Oh,
think.
I thought you were going to talk about Hobby Lobby.
No. I forget
That's
his
Steve Green, right?
I forget his last
Steve
name,
Green?
but
I can't remember.
I can't remember it.
the main
Yeah.
editor of MormonThink.com.
I don't know who that is.
Anyways, he did a court summons for Thomas S. Monson to come to the UK court.
Oh, you're right.
And so he was going to sue
right.
them and everything of that sort. But the courts refused to hear it because then it would put religion on the trial. And that's essentially what's going to happen now. So for us to be able to make a court case out of it, we have to put religion on trial. And there's not a single U.S. justice that's in there or going to be in there that I can think of that would have the balls to be able to step up and say,
I disagree.
Ginsburg.
I disagree. All 3 of the fucking women judges will do it.
Well, Ginsburg.
all three of them that
well,
all the religious people say women shouldn't be in charge of men. They're all
Tom
the
Phillips.
ones.
Tom Phillips. Yeah, Tom Phillips. But, I mean,
Now fuck Clarence Thomas and Roberts and fuck those guys.
it could certainly,
Scalia. Yeah, no
I mean,
way.
it could certainly happen, but,
No, but
we're
Ginsburg,
still,
Sotomayor.
we're still years away from somebody to be able to take a religion to trial, and it wouldn't just be a church; it would be an entire religion.
Religion.
Okay,
The whole
so
sect.
are we talking
Scopes
about
trial
are we
of
talking
the
about what we
20th,
what we
21st
think we want, or are we talking about what we think should happen? Because we sort of seems like we switched into
from what we think is going on to what we want to happen to what we think is going to actually go on.
Well, I think that in a couple years, it might get to the point where SCOTUS would hear those types of cases, especially what's going on with the culture wars, with the LGBT becoming legal and everything, and churches coming in and saying, we have, we're so adamantly against this, but the district courts are still, fuck you, religion. These are human rights that we're dealing with. Mm-hmm. And I think that the fight, this is my prediction, that the fight is going to get much, much, much nastier, especially 2016 when we're electing. I mean, we thought Obama versus Romney was bad.
Yeah.
This is going to be fucking catastrophic.
Okay, so we're talking about what we think.
So are we looking at more of a war between saying church has a say in societal law? Far as saying this church, of course, this is the way we think law should be, since it's our religious beliefs, this is what law is going to be, versus no, your religion has no say in what law should be.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you live in fucking Utah. You know how it is.
Oh,
the Mormon Church has an inordinate amount of say in what our public policy and what our laws are.
Yeah.
And it just takes somebody with the balls and the gall to and the money, let's face it, and the money to go in
of course.
And say, we're putting you on trial.
Money's the big part.
Mm-hmm. And it takes putting a religion, and this is really what I see it coming down to. It takes putting a religion on trial in a court setting where they have to present the facts. And they have to define, not only that, they have to define what it is. This is what we're presenting as fact. This is what we're presenting as allegory.
Ideally, sure.
And even if nothing comes
realistically?
out. Realistically, probably not.
Yeah.
But even if nothing comes out of that case, and this is what I was hoping with the Tom Phillips case, was that the Mormon Church would go on and say, this is what we're presenting as fact. This is what we're presenting as allegory. And then that would reach out, even if nothing was made from that decision. If the courts were like, no, fuck this, we're not touching this, we don't want anything to do with it. It's still a matter of public record, and people can go on there and they can see, the media can come on and say, you know what? They've fucking been lying to you guys. Because now they're saying that we're not presenting this as fact, this is allegory.
Even then, any religiously motivated murder that has ever happened has never fucking held up to say, no, God told you to do it, so you're okay.
Right. Exactly.
Right. I mean, and the difference there is that, all of these people who have ever gone on trial for murder and have claimed religious privileges, the reason why they did this, they haven't associated themselves specifically with any brand necessarily of Christianity or any other theological reasoning. They've always said, it was just God told me to do it. Mm-hmm. No, God didn't tell you to do it. You're just fucking crazy and you killed somebody.
Yeah, but exactly. I think we're about to kind of hit I hope it's sort of a pinnacle or a singularity or whatever you want to call it, because we have a large combination of things happening. I mean, we've got more religious crazy nut jobs in Supreme Court than ever that are all unified.
I don't know if I'd say than ever, but
they're
having to face harder cases
that
are a part of it.
Fuck that guy. Fuck that shit.
I actually agree with Dan.
Yeah, don't let me drown you out. I will do it because my Irish comes out as but I'm just saying
you have I noticed tonight, I had never noticed it before tonight, that you have the flaming shamrock tattoo on your calf.
Yeah. but let me finish this point though. Like in SCOTUS we've got more unified religious nut fucking jobs than I've ever seen. All right. And
well, no, yeah, that's a valid point.
Okay,
I'm curious to know how many other Catholic SCOTUSes we've had.
All right, fair enough. Okay, that's only a part of my point, though. The other part is that we're seeing the most scrutinized, blocked presidency we've ever seen in history. Mm-hmm. Right, and the combination of those
with a possible exception,
stark contrast,
with the possible exception of JFK.
I still think more than that.
You think so?
I think more than that, okay. But that would be a close second.
I really like JFK though. I'm a big JFK fan.
I would say that would be a close second.
I'm a Boston
he wasn't in office long enough or same amount of time.
Yeah, well, okay, so Lyndon Johnson got him killed. What do you want to, but...
Whoa.
Yeah, fuck Johnson, man. But we got the Supreme Court that looks like that, right? Mm. That we already know how they ruled, and we've got the most the most adversarial. What? How do I want to say that? There's the most difficult,
the most contentious, the most disagreeable.
Yeah, House or Senate, Congress versus the presidency we've ever seen, and I think that combination is going to bring us to a head at some point.
The next 2 years are going to be interesting.
Yeah, well, sure.
But that's what I mean. I mean, it's definitely making people pick sides.
Well, and I absolutely agree that it's the issues there. I mean, people are obviously batshit crazy in the Congress and the Senate. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you there, but I don't think that's fundamentally that people have changed. I mean, let's use LGBT as an example. I don't think that even though there's more people coming out of the closet, there's more people being open and feeling comfortable that they can be open. I don't think that means that we have a larger incurrence of homosexuality
or a larger population or a
larger population. We look at psychopaths, we look at serial killers. Yes, we've only had it defined within the past 60 or so years, but I don't think that we have a higher occurrence in this time. What I think is that we have more access to information. We have access to people's ideas. And because we have that larger circulation of ideas, that puts the pressure on people. Now, when people are presented with information that fills them with cognitive dissonance and confirmation bias, they tend to retract back into their bubble and they become more fundamental in their beliefs because they don't want to believe. It makes them uncomfortable to step outside of that. And so we see that.
We agree.
Yeah. No, I never said I disagreed with you. I just think that there's a little bit more of an explanation.
I know.
Yeah.
You don't have to be afraid to do that just because I'm more. I know you're kind of, but I can be a little aggressive, but I'm not. Why is that funny?
It's just funny to me.
I think that's beer 7 and 8.
You're fine. Please
I just
continue.
take it personally. I just think we notice the crazy more because we're exposed to more ideas.
Yeah, but yeah, sure. But when you have a situation that's so polarizing, then you're forcing people who would have taken a middle position to pick a side. And I think at this point, with the combination of SCOTUS and the presidency we have, we're gonna end up seeing a lot more people fall to a side we don't necessarily agree to. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, and you're absolutely right. I mean,
that's what's gonna hit the.
Traditionally, we've had like 30% of people who, even upwards of 40% of people who don't claim party affiliation. They say, I'm voting for the person who's right, and now that is reducing, and now we either have Democrat or Republican, and it's not fighting across the party lines anymore. It's fighting within the parties.
Yeah, but I mean, even in situations like Hobby Lobby, where we've seen a dramatic increase in non-religious affiliates, growing over the last 5-10 years, and Hobby Lobby still was able to make their case all the way to the Supreme Court because there's a majority, not just a majority of people who are religious, but a majority of rich men who have the same religious affiliation. And so the minority of SCOTUS,
not even necessarily the same affiliation, but the same basic religious belief.
They're all Catholic.
I don't think Hobby Lobby's Catholic.
Oh, it doesn't matter though.
Well, right, but that's what I'm saying.
I'm saying within SCOTUS.
It's not
within SCOTUS.
Yeah, sure.
Because you have all the dissenting voices were saying, well, no, women should have the right to choose, right? Which is what this growing group, like we're seeing in the populace, this growing group of liberal, progressive, whatever, non-religious affiliates are saying, yeah, fuck Hobby Lobby. Well, when you get up to SCOTUS, it doesn't fucking matter because it's a minority and you have this major group of people who are all exactly the same vote. And they're like, well, yeah, they're Protestants, but close enough. So we'll rule in their favor. That's what fucks us. Now we have a black president, right, who's also a progressive liberal. So we have SCOTUS, who's a majority religious men in Supreme Court. Then we have a black president. This is all coming to a head in a very bad place, I think.
Well, I think we all agree it's a fucky situation.
A fucky situation.
But on that note, it's about time to wrap it up for tonight.
All right. Well,
I know we got to yell a little bit, Matt. Got to get a little bit of anger out of you.
I didn't get angry.
No, you got to get the Boston.
Good.
You got the Boston out. All right. Your weekly dose
let's
of
do it. All right.
Do we say a prayer at this point? Or?
Yeah. Why don't you offer it for us?
Amen.
Thank you for bacon
and beer, most especially for beer. Yeah, I like beer a lot.
All right. Well, I'll be unnecessarily angry, Matt, tonight.
Oh. I was semi-quiet, Ryan, tonight.
Yeah, you were very quiet, Ryan, tonight.
I don't think you're unnecessarily angry. I agree with many of the things you say, Matt.
I think anger is necessary in these types of situations.
Absolutely,
by all means.
Anger is a good motivating force.
I'm not.
You need to channel it. You need to channel it in a productive way.
You need to not tell me what to do, and I'm going to not be. I'm not angry.
I'm not saying you specifically.
I'm not angry. I'm just
I'm
just Irish, Matt.
Basically, we're telling you that we love you. And then we support your decisions.
Wow.
And this is how you react. Jesus Christ.
I'll give you a hug after the podcast.
Didn't expect that one at all. Thanks, Josh.
Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Yep. And go visit us on Facebook, Godless Rebelution, or look up Matt and Ryan. Go find us. Write some shit.
Visit us on Facebook.
Email
Send
us
an
an email.
email.
Yeah.
They do Facebook us quite a bit. But
do some more. Do that posty thing on the internet.
At the GodlessRebelution at gmail.com.
Yeah.
Find us on Facebook. You can contact me on Facebook.
Or Atheists of Utah.
Atheists of Utah on Facebook.
And if you're that guy from Brazil that sent me a friend message today, I don't speak
Portuguese.
Whatever you were typing in. I don't know what you said.
If it's Brazil,
he speaks
probably
Canadian because he said sorry.
Sorry,
you hoser.
I'll get off the roof.
Well, thank you very much for coming on tonight, Josh. It's been a pleasure.
It's my pleasure.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody.
Bye.
See you next week.
Bye.